Chapter 200. In the dormitory building, Li Liantong and Zhong Yanru were watching Lu Cheng's exclusive interview with great interest. This was the first time they had seen someone they knew on the television screen. The random interview with the audience and the brief post-match comments did not count. He's a little different from the Cheng that Ko mentioned. Li Liantong laughed as she watched. Whenever Ko mentioned her boyfriend, the most common word she would say was, silly. Zhong Yanru nodded and said, it's a little different from the last time you treated us. That time, the focus of the conversation was on the couple's relationship. Lu Cheng showed his humorous, considerate, and generous side. In the interview that was being broadcasted, the main topic was martial arts, which was Lu Cheng's field of expertise. He spoke confidently, calmly, and gently. Although he was still a little shy and inexperienced, the brilliance of him couldn't be concealed. This made the semi-acquaintances, who had only seen him a few times and only watched him fight in the challenge tournament, feel the contrast and impact. Li Liantong opened her mouth. She wanted to make a dirty joke, but in the end, it turned into a sigh, "'Cause taste is really good, yeah." Zhong Yanru recalled her understanding of Lu Cheng and her impression of him when she met him a few times. She couldn't help but agree. Yan Shaoling sat by the window in the second row of the classroom. The books on the table had been piled up into a fortress. She rested her chin on one hand and pretended to comb her hair with the other. She pressed her earplugs and looked at the phone on the edge of the drawer with a well-practiced attitude. She was watching the interview with a silly smile. This was a pleasant surprise. She originally just wanted to check the results of the draw in the forum and didn't have any expectations for other things. Who knew that Songqing TV station would make a big news and broadcast the long-awaited interview? Hey, this is the first time I've seen Lu Cheng talk so much. Yan Shaoling smiled. The whole interview was not much different from what she had expected. It was obvious that Lu Cheng was not the kind of martial artist with a particularly distinctive character. His personal style was vague, and he seemed to be an ordinary, precocious boy. Although he was confident, calm, and dazzling, if one really wanted to describe his personality traits, he lacked any explosive points. To put it simply, Yan Shaoling felt that Lu Cheng was the kind of boy next door, which matched her initial impression of him as warm and considerate. He didn't disappoint her. Thinking of this, she sent a message to Brahman, deliberately provoking her. Lu Cheng doesn't seem to have that kind of mysterious temperament. For this reason, she even added a crying emoji. Brahman quickly replied, I'm no longer the child I used to be. I like my idol. Immediately after, she added, that's right. Call me father. How rude of you. What do you mean I'm no longer the child I used to be? It had only been slightly more than 3 months. Yan Shaoling complained. Just as she was about to press the keyboard on the screen, her heart suddenly tightened. She found that the light on her phone seemed to be covered with a layer of shadow. She quietly stuffed her phone back into the drawer and covered her ears with both hands again. Then, from the corner of her eyes, she saw a black shadow outside the window. The mysterious homeroom teacher. Under the night sky, the remaining lights of the teaching area were reflected on the surface of the lake, rippling with the slightly cool night breeze. This interview was taken before Valentine's Day, right? Yan Zhika swung her hand that was holding Lu Cheng's hand like a swing. Yes. Lu Cheng looked at the girl with a smile, often showing her liveliness recently. Of course, in front of others, she was no different from before. Yan Zhika stopped her childish behavior and sighed inexplicably. It's only been 2 months, but you've changed so much in the interview. It always makes me feel that it's been a long time since school started. Just like how she sometimes felt that they had been dating for a long time, so long that she had gotten used to each other's breath and temperature. She didn't have the nerve to say this, so she said with a smile, the experience of the preliminaries has helped you a lot. More mature, more confident, more responsible. I think so. Lu Cheng smiled and turned to look at the girl's clear and bright eyes. It's mainly because I have a girlfriend. This made him mature not only in the arena. Yen Jika's pretty face was blushing. She turned her head and looked to the side, gnashing her teeth. See, this is the change. You're getting more and more thick-skinned. There was no trace of anger in her coquettish tone. Lu Qing snickered and pulled the girl over. He let go of her hand and wrapped his arms around her slender waist. This was the way he liked to walk recently. Donglin City, Wenqing Mountain. Behind the vacation villa area where the land was worth thousands of dollars, old buildings with a sense of time erosion were scattered in the picturesque scenery, complementing the peaceful and quiet mountain night. In one of the buildings, the lights were bright, illuminating rows of bookshelves, a table covered with rice paper, and a young man in a black Han suit with red stripes. He was in his early 20s. He was holding a brush in his hand, concentrating on writing words that were sharp and restrained. Senior brother Zhou, don't you care about the result of the draw? On the other side of the study, two female guests were sitting. One of them had a ponytail, thick but not messy eyebrows, which made her look quite pretty. Zhou Zhenquan's breath was unchanged, and his writing was not messy. He said leisurely, "What's the use of caring? Do you think I can force those old men to start again if I get moonshine?" There was only one rule in the draw of the preliminaries, which was to avoid the first and second place of the group. Anything could happen, so it was particularly exciting. At this point, he laughed. "Junior Sister Yi, you didn't pay attention to the Yanling Division's lot drawing ceremony and brought Sister Jiang Lan here to wander around blindly." The speaker was Yi Yaoting from the Yi Martial Arts Club in Yanling. Her family was closely related to the Wenqing school. They both belonged to the branch of the Black Tortoise School, one of the 12 major forces. Their core martial arts originated from the Heavenly Water Scripture, the unique skill of the Water Sect, and the Black Tortoise Sword. Therefore, when they interacted with each other, they called each other senior brothers and junior sisters. "Who said I don't care? Isn't there still a week to go?" Yi Yaoting looked at Zhou Zhenquan with disdain. Regarding this matter, she had said it 3 times, but senior brother Zhou obviously didn't take it to heart. The Yanling division was relatively large, and there were more teams than Songcheng. There were 2 more rounds in the group stage, so the draw ceremony was a week later. Yi Yaoting had nothing to do, so she thought that the Wenqing school seemed to have formed a team to participate in the preliminaries and had successfully passed. She simply invited Jiang Lan for a short trip and came here to exchange ideas. The demure and gentle Jiang Lan followed with a laugh. "If we really get moonshine, I'm looking forward to seeing the change in your expression." She was a little older than Zhou Zhenquan, so after they got familiar with each other, she called herself his sister. Moonshine Squad was a strong team capable of competing for a place in the second stage of the preliminaries, and its reputation was not small in this circle. What change can there be? Just admit it. Zhou Zhenquan's writing style did not change at all, and the skeleton of the words was thick and heavy. Anyway, we can only wait for 1 more year. This time, if they still can't pass the second stage, the team will probably be disbanded. Wang Sheng and Li Menglong already have a lot of invitations in their hands, from clubs in the North and South Division, and from teams in other big cities who want to form a team of 3 or 4 Dan stage to compete in the North and South Division. Wasn't their original slogan, "Brothers United, take root in Songcheng"? Yi Yaoting blurted out, with some ridicule and amusement, but also some sadness and pity. Will dreams yield to reality after all? Zhou Zhenquan put down the weasel hair brush in his hand and wiped his palms with a white towel. He sighed and said, "There's nothing we can do about it. Songcheng is big, but we have limited resources. Yongshi and the other 2 are enough." While he was talking, there was a sound of footsteps outside the door. Hou Yu jumped in and said excitedly, "Senior brother Zhou, the results are out. It looks good." Zhou Zhenquan looked at his junior brother with a smile. He secretly exhaled when Yi Yaoting and Jiang Lan were not paying attention. The draw can be ruined, but not the demeanor. Hou Yu answered with a smile, "Not bad, not bad. Songcheng University Martial Arts Club. Songcheng University Martial Arts Club." Yi Yaoting was moved and asked subconsciously, "Songcheng University Martial Arts Club? Some failures could be forgotten in a second, but some failures could be remembered clearly. Beside her, Jiang Lan was also interested and looked like she was waiting for the answer. Yes, senior sister Yi, you should know their leading member. He participated in the Warrior Sage Challenge tournament. Hou Yu vaguely remembered the general information. Yi Yaoting took a breath and said, Lu Cheng. He became the leading member of Songqing University Martial Arts Club. He should have gotten the certificate of professional 9th pin, right? I told you you would know him, senior sister Yi. Hou Yu was like a monkey with ADHD who couldn't calm down. Lu Cheng, as one of the leading members, led Songqing University Martial Arts Club into the knockout stage. Yi Yaoting couldn't hide her curiosity and asked, Junior brother Hou, how is Lu Cheng's strength now? She knew that although Hou Yu seemed to be uncertain, he was actually quite proud. A professional 9th pin less than 18 years old was indeed qualified to be proud. The smile on Hou Yu's face disappeared as he said seriously, which was rare for him. Very, very powerful. After that, he couldn't help but add, very powerful. This was the answer of the proud junior brother Hou Yu. Yi Yaoting forgot to breathe for a moment. Back in the dormitory, Lu Cheng browsed the information of Donglin's squad. Their members were all from the Wenqing school and practiced the fly-fall punch, which originated from the unique skill of the water sect. The oldest was Zhuo Yanjun, a 24-year-old professional 9th pin fighter. The youngest was Hou Yu, an 18-year-old professional 9th pin fighter. The leading general was Zhou Zhenquan, a 21-year-old professional 8th pin fighter, and Li Xingnan, a 23-year-old professional 9th pin fighter. A very strong and young team. Lu Cheng forgot that he was only 19 years old and that none of the leading members and substitutes of the martial arts club were over 22 years old. The moonlight was quiet in the mountains, and the wind was blowing at night. Jiang Lan closed her laptop and exhaled slowly. She couldn't hold back her emotions, so she stood up, opened the door, and walked to the corridor. The core force of the ice sect, the limitless tremor punch. Lu Cheng's rapid progress made her feel inexplicable fear. She had only learned tremor punch a year ago when she was in Dan's stage, and she was still figuring out force. How long had it been? She subconsciously looked at Yi Yaoting's room and was surprised to see her best friend sitting quietly in the dark, staring out of the window. Chapter 201. Noticing Jiang Lan's stare, Yi Yaoting shuddered. Her eyes regained their luster and she said blankly, Sister Lan, you can't sleep either? Jiang Lan stared at her and chuckled, are you upset? Yi Yaoting was silent for more than 10 seconds and sighed faintly, a little. Previously, I thought that after going through the trials, I had matured a lot in all aspects, from my temperament to my strength. In the end, after watching his recent competition videos, I realized what it means to feel too good about oneself. As for the previous battle, she felt more surprised. The kid who was obviously easy to bully had suddenly awakened his innate talent and awakened his special ability, causing a short burst of power that caught her off guard. If they were to fight again, the result would not be like this. However, in less than 4 months, that young and inexperienced fellow had completely transformed into a formidable opponent. Regardless of whether it was one of the core forces of the ice sect or the endless tremor punch, they were all things that were currently out of his reach. At this time, if she were to encounter him, her chances of winning would be very, very low. Jiang Lan shook her head slightly and laughed at herself, I'm also a little upset. Tremor punch is still okay. With the inheritance and guidance, it's not too exaggerated to master it in half a year. But the core force of the ice sect is enough to make many professional 8th pin Dan stage fighters envious. Isn't it always difficult to grasp the essence and charm of a visualization diagram? Just by mastering meditation, there shouldn't be any obvious advantage. Her tremor punch was self-created. She gradually realized the mystery of it through constant practice with similar martial arts. Then she spent the points of the Martial Artist Association to ask for guidance on the key points of visualization. After a year, she finally created her own tremor punch. With the realm of Dan's stage where the strength of the whole body was integrated into one, the subtle control of the muscles was not difficult for her. As for force, it was a low-level type that did not require comprehension of a visualization diagram. It was not very useful even if it was mastered, just like the burning force of Hung Luo Martial Arts School. In order to grasp the essence and charm of a visualization diagram, one had to be close to mastering meditation. In addition, there were 81 difficulties. Hearing Jiang Lan's words, Yi Yaoting's mood improved a lot. I thought I was the only one who was upset. It turns out that Sister Lan was also shocked. Sigh, maybe he will even surpass me one day, don't worry too much about this. Generally speaking, the faster you advance, the more time you need to settle down before you reach the threshold of Dan stage, unless you have the wisdom of previous lives. Jiang Lan comforted her, but you have already touched the threshold of Dan stage, and are only one step away from mastering the meaning of withdraw? Yi Yaoting pulled the hair hanging by her mouth childishly. Sister Lan, Sister Lan, Sister Lan, you don't have to comfort me. You know that I'm a little heartless, and I'll recover in the blink of an eye. Besides, it's not a bad thing to be provoked at this time. In the past, I was always in the limelight among the warriors of the same age. Not only was I born with divine strength, but my cultivation level was also very fast. I was always able to suppress the majority of people. That's why I was a little conceited and a little arrogant. But now, with a comparison, it hurts me, it sets me off. I realized that I was originally nothing. If I want to go further, then I have to calm down and calm down. Jiang Lan nodded thoughtfully. This may be a good thing for you. At 10:30 on Saturday morning, in the train to Donglin City. Sitting next to Yan Zhika, Lu Cheng and Yan Zhika were chatting about the latest hot news, dutifully playing the role of an onlooker, flirting with each other from time to time. Just then, his cell phone made a ding sound. He picked it up and saw a delightful message, 20,000. 00 yuan has been transferred to your savings card ending with XXXX. Current balance is 25,813. 74. The broadcasting bonus is in my account. Lu Qing put his phone in front of Yan Zhika, without any intention of hiding the specific amount of his private savings. After the lot drawing ceremony, the organizing committee had distributed the broadcasting bonus to each participating team. But Songqing University maintained its usual style of procrastination in administrative affairs. It wasn't until Friday afternoon that the accounting was completed and the finance department went to the bank. Martial arts bonuses like this were generally calculated after tax, and the organizing committee would withhold income tax. I haven't arrived yet. Yan Zhika frowned her long black eyebrows and said, half surprised and half puzzled. Maybe the bank is different, and it's the weekend, so it can't be so timely. Lu Qing guessed the reason. Maybe the school's finance department went to several banks at an awkward time, so some of them were transferred in time, while others had to wait until Monday. Maybe there was a system delay in his text message. It's okay. Yan Zhika pursed her lips and smiled. She couldn't hide the curiosity in her eyes as she glanced at Lu Cheng's phone screen. Cheng only had a little more than 5,000 yuan left in his private savings. I can't let him book such an expensive hotel next time I travel. Yeah, I'll take the initiative to invite him on a date tomorrow. I have my own private savings too. Receiving the bonus in time before the competition was a big incentive for Lu Cheng. It made him less nervous and more eager to fight. If he could beat Donglin squad and enter the semi-finals, there would be more bonuses. After 2.5 hours, at 12:15 noon, the martial arts club arrived at Donglin North Station. They saw the organizing committee staff and a minibus coming to pick them up. Seeing this, Sun Jian and the others immediately recalled their experience in Yimo. They asked fearfully, how many live spectators are there this time? The terrifying atmosphere in Yimo was like it was going to swallow all challengers. Not many, I guess. The staff thought for a while and said, the competition is in Wenxing School's dojo, halfway up the mountain. At most a few hundred people can sit. Phew. Li Mao exhaled and smiled at Sun Jian, Lin Hua, and the others before settling down. Boarding the minibus, Yenjika looked out of the window with a clean face and suddenly sighed. When I watched professional martial arts competitions in the past, I especially liked and envied those hardcore fans who would follow the team to the away games. Without waiting for her to finish, Lu Qing already knew what she meant. He leaned close to her head and looked out of the window. This can't be rushed. The martial arts club has just risen again. Everyone doesn't have such deep feelings. It takes 5 hours to go back and forth by train. Hee, I used to think that after I graduate from university and earn some money, I'll follow the Longhu Club a few times during my holidays. That kind of atmosphere and feeling would be great. People came and went outside the window, but most of them didn't feel like students. You might be too embarrassed to do that after you graduate from university. Yenjika thought of a fun scene and smiled deeply with her dimples. If people find out that a team or club's leading player is a follower of the Longhu Club, it will be very interesting. As long as Qing could successfully advance to Dan's stage in university, with his Frost Force and Thunder Roar Zen, he could be the main force in the third level of the North-South Division competition. If he improved faster than that and reached the level of Peng Liyun and Renli, maybe he would directly go to the Wuyue Club or the Longhu Club and be trained as a reserve talent. It will also be very embarrassing. Lu Qing thought seriously and said. But now I can make money without graduation. If there is a chance, I can ask Ku to give it a try. She seems to be very interested. Moreover, in another year, little Wanton will graduate from high school and the Longhu Club Forum will organize a meetup. It is very likely that they will arrange to watch the competition together. As he spoke, his gaze suddenly froze, because he saw a few familiar figures. Isn't the guy walking out of the station Kai Xiaoming? He is followed by Zhao Chang, Qiu Zhigao, Zhang Jingye and his girlfriend Wu Qian, and Wu Qian's 3 roommates. Look over there. Lu Qing patted Yenjika's shoulder. Yenjika stared at him and asked in a daze, your roommates? She knew Kai Zongming and Qiu Zhigao. At this time, Kai Zongming and Zhao Chang seemed to have noticed their gazes and looked over. They waved their hands happily and made a gesture of cheering. Do they count as our first group of fans? Yenjika's eyes sparkled and she laughed in a low voice. Lu Qing answered seriously and sincerely, I think they are taking the opportunity to make friends with their roommates. With the excuse of following the martial arts club to Donglin and cheering for them, they invited their roommates to play in a different place and make friends with them. How clever! I have been roommates for almost a year. How can I not know what they are thinking? This must be Xiaoming's idea. The car drove away. Lu Qing and the others gradually moved away from Kai Zongming and his roommates. After half an hour's drive and lunch, they arrived at the foot of Wenqing Mountain at 2 in the afternoon. Then the minibus went up the mountain road. It took them 40 minutes to reach the mountainside and the main gate of the Wenqing School's training hall. At 3:30, the competition would start on time. Is this another kind of home field advantage? Yenjika got off the bus, breathed in the fresh mountain air, and looked up. Lu Qing also noticed and nodded solemnly, yes. Wenqing School didn't deliberately create a home field atmosphere like Yimo. They chose to wait at ease. From the new campus of Songqing University to here, he and the others had spent a total of nearly 6 hours. Although they had caught up on sleep in the car midway, the effect was not very good. Except for himself, the others could be said to be completely fatigued from the journey, and their combat strength had unknowingly weakened by a lot. We should have left last night and stayed in Donglin City for one night. It's normal that we didn't think of this because we don't have much experience. Why didn't Master remind us? Why didn't he make arrangements in advance? Geezer sure walked out of the bus, feeling refreshed. He stretched his body, coughed twice and said, that's right. Let's go in. Is it easy for me to be an undercover agent? Chapter 202. Lu Qing and the others stepped into the dojo of Wenqing School after passing through the dark and cold cloister and crossing the threshold carved with the passage of time. A ray of sunlight fell from the dome, mixed with the color of the glazed tiles. It illuminated the blue stone ring in the center, the training ground around it, and the wear and tear marks accumulated over time. There were high platforms on both sides of the dojo, divided into several rows. At the top, there were seats for guests who seemed to be of high status. Here, it was hard to imagine the unrestrained and ostentatious feeling of the martial arts arena of Songqing University. The spectators were either in formal training suits or in suits. It was as if they were watching an opera instead of a fierce battle. Seniors, officials, celebrities, disciples. Lu Qing could almost guess the identity of most of the audience. Yan Zhika beside him seemed to have the same feeling. She tilted her head and whispered in his ear, "It's like the exchange of sex recorded in the ancient books, yes." Lu Qing suddenly realized. This was a perfect summary of his feelings just now. In ancient times, when sects had exchanges and sparring sessions, they would invite the local martial arts seniors and officials to spectate. They would also allow their disciples to sit in as spectators as possible. There was nothing wrong with this, but it was completely different from the competition atmosphere that Lu Cheng and Yan Zhika had been exposed to since childhood. In those times, martial arts didn't belong to the public. Ordinary people didn't even have the right to cheer. Lu Cheng undoubtedly preferred the enthusiasm in his own martial arts arena. He and Yan Zhika shared such feelings and followed Geezer Shi into the away team locker room. In a seat on the high platform, Yi Yaoting, wearing a light-colored coat, watched Lu Cheng's figure and asked with a slightly complicated expression, "Sister Lan, which side do you think has a higher chance of winning?" The draw ceremony for the Yanling division was tomorrow night. Shi and Jiang Lan didn't rush back because they couldn't interfere with the final result anyway. Jiang Lan held her chin with one hand and smiled slightly. In terms of winning probability, Wenqing School is definitely more likely. But Lu Cheng and Lin Ke have their own characteristics and strengths. They belong to the top part of the professional 9th pin fighters. If they participate in the Warrior Sage Challenge tournament, in the later stage, it's not impossible to defeat those 8th pin fighters who consume a lot of energy. If they team up and take turns to fight, little brother Zhou won't be able to handle it. Senior brother Zhou is a little stronger than Wei Xingtian, but there is a limit to it. Compared to when he defeated Fearless Squad, both Lu Cheng and Lin Ke have improved a lot. Yi Yaoting didn't say it clearly, but the meaning was clear. She was worried that Zhou Zhenquan would lose more cleanly than Wei Xingtian. She paused and asked half curiously, "Sister Lan, do you think it's possible that Lin Ke has entered the Danqi state?" "It's not that easy to reach the Danqi stage." Jiang Lan laughed. Lin Ke only grasped the meaning of withdraw at the end of March. Up until now, it has been less than 2 months. Speaking of those painstaking efforts, he can't finish them. It took me 7 months to grasp the meaning of withdraw and step into the Danqi state. No matter how talented he is, he can't build a tall building from scratch without 3 or 4 months of foundation. I see. Yi Yaoting nodded thoughtfully. Then Wenqing School has a better chance of winning. Junior brother Ho, senior sister Zhua and senior sister Li are all strong 9th pin fighters. Especially the former, she didn't dare to say that she could win for sure. In the away team locker room, Geezer Shi noticed that Li Mao, Sun Jian and the others looked tired. He let out a sigh and attracted everyone's attention. "Little Yan, what strategy do you think Donglin's squad will use? How will they line up?" He pointed at Yan Zhika with a smile. "Don't be shy. Analyze it for us." "That's right. Coach Yan, why don't you say something?" Guo Qing couldn't help laughing. Yan Zhika was confused and bewildered by the crowd's laughter. Her pretty face turned pink, but she didn't decline and said generously, "I'm sorry, but I'm sorry. Donglin's squad must have seen the video of our match with Fearless Squad. They will definitely find a way to restrain Lu Cheng's abnormal physical strength." Speaking of her boyfriend's abnormal physical strength, she couldn't help but laugh. Then she despised herself in her mind. "Yan Zhika, if this was a speech, there would be no way to save your laughter. You weren't like this before." Lu Cheng put on an innocent expression and mouthed silently, "What's so funny about this?" Yenjika glanced at him, took a deep breath, and continued seriously, "It's hard for them to determine the order of our battle, so they can't arrange Zhou Zhenquan, an 8th pin Dan stage fighter, according to the order of Lu Cheng and Lin Quebec. I think they'll compromise and let Zhou Zhenquan be the second to fight. In this way, if we fight Lin Ke first, he will fight with Zhuo Yanjun, Li Xingnan, and Hou Yu, 3 strong professional 9th pin fighters. If there are no accidents, it will be difficult for him to win quickly. That is to say, he will consume a lot of energy. And if he faces Zhou Zhenquan in such a state, it's hard to say if he can open up the situation for Lu Cheng. Once Lu Cheng faces Zhou Zhenquan, who is almost in perfect condition, no matter how good his physical strength is, he can't show it. If Lu Cheng goes first, with his abnormal physical strength, he may be able to challenge Zhou Zhenquan in his best condition and create a chance for Lin Ke to win. But Lin Ke's physical strength is only average. After a fierce battle with a Dan stage fighter, what are his chances of winning against the remaining strong professional 9th pin fighter of Donglin squad? But we still have senior Sun Jian behind us, so we still have a chance. Listening to Yenjika's detailed explanation, Sun Jian, Li Mao, and the rest nodded slightly. This was indeed the strategy that the Donglin battle team was most likely to adopt. Although it was a moderate strategy, it was effective enough. Besides, they also silently complained, although we all know that Yenjika is Lu Cheng's girlfriend, don't show too obvious bias when you analyze. Don't always say that Lin Ke's physical strength is ordinary. Abnormal people like Cheng are abnormal. Are you bullying a single dog? Be careful not to affect the harmonious, lively, stable and united situation of the martial arts club. Feeling everyone's meaningful gaze and her cousin's inexplicable gaze, Yenjika couldn't help but reach out to touch her slightly hot cheeks. Was my analysis just now wrong? Why is everyone else so inexplicable except Cheng? She restrained her doubts and finally added, in addition, we have to pay attention to Hou Yu. He maintained an undefeated record in the previous group matches. At most, he took the initiative to quit because of excessive physical strength consumption. He hasn't shown his limit yet. In other words, no one knew whether Hou Yu had 1 or 2 more hidden skills compared to last year. And these were all things that Yenjika and Lu Cheng had discussed in private. Good analysis. Geezer Shi nodded and smiled. Coach Shi, I have one more thing. Yenjika raised her hand to report, blushing. She accidentally forgot it just now. So embarrassing. Go ahead. Geezer Shi nodded with a smile. Yenjika quickly added, the unique skills of the water sect are particular about nourishment and endurance. The martial arts derived from it all have the characteristics of good endurance. I believe that Wenqing School's fly-fall punch is no exception. Yes, fly-fall punch does have this characteristic. Zhou Zhenquan can be said to be quite good at restraining the 8th pin Dan stage. Since Yenjika had discovered the blind spot that he had deliberately hidden, Geezer Shi didn't mind explaining. However, both Lin Ke and Lu Cheng have improved a lot compared to when they went to Yimo. You don't have to worry too much about this. What's our main problem? Geezer Shi chuckled. Yes, except for the 2 leading players, the substitutes are relatively weak. If it weren't for Wenqing School's pride and the fact that they thought they could win under normal circumstances and didn't apply for a special competition format in advance, how could we have any hope? Sun Jian, Li Mao, Yenjika, and the others were embarrassed by his words. But it's not even a year of special training. It's good that you can improve so fast. As an elder, Geezer Shi comforted Li Mao warmly after giving him a lesson on setbacks. Li Mao, you've been getting better at still stance lately. It won't be long before you enter the entry level. At that time, with your physical fitness, it should be easy for you to reach the level of amateur first pin. Try to reach the level of professional 9th pin before November this year. Hearing Coach Shi's affirmation, Li Mao felt inexplicably excited and moved. Although he did think that he had gotten a feel for the still stance recently, he was still the kind of person who lacked confidence and dared not be blindly happy. He had always been nervous until Gizershur's words calmed him down and made him feel a little more certain. As for you, Yen. Gizershur looked at Yen Zhika. After 2 or 3 months of training, your physical quality will be improved to the level where you can withstand the internal training method. Remember to ask for one from your family and try to reach the level of professional 9th pin before November. Yes, yes. Yen Zhika pursed her lips and nodded like a chicken pecking rice. Her eyes were shining brightly. Thinking that she was getting closer and closer to the level of professional 9th pin, the girl couldn't hide her excitement. Lu Cheng's Thunder Roar Zen was not only a fighting method, but also an internal training method. With this method, one could practice martial arts into one's bones and body. The meteor force of the Ji family also included a similar part. The reason why Yen Zhika didn't use it was because her body hadn't reached that level yet. If she forced herself to practice it, it would only hurt her internal organs. Lu Cheng was also taught Thunder Roar Zen at the beginning of this semester. Guoqing, you've practiced mountain moving fist very well and you have some talent. In the next semester, not to mention Yen and Li Mao, there is still hope for you to reach the level of amateur first pin. Sun Jian, if you and Lin Hua insist on participating in the special training in the next 2 semesters, there is still hope for you to get the certificate of professional 9th pin before graduation. Gizershur commented one by one and took the opportunity to educate them. In the end, he looked at Lu Cheng and Lin Kei and said with a smile, as for the order of appearance, don't worry so much. Don't forget our original goal. We are here to practice in actual combat. Last time, Lin Kei challenged an intact 8th pin Dan stage fighter. So this time, it's Lu Cheng's turn. As he spoke, his face became serious. Lu Cheng, you're the first to fight today. Lu Cheng took a deep breath and said loudly, okay. What would it be like to face an intact 8th pin Dan stage fighter? Chapter 203. Wenxing School, in the locker room of the home team. Sect leader Enai Mingfei was wearing an ancient-style practice suit. He stroked his beard and said, I won't say more. Zhenquan, you're the second to fight. Do your best. Yes, master. Zhou Zhenquan nodded calmly. Enai Mingfei looked at Hou Yu, who seemed to be restless. Xiaoya, you're the first to fight. Both Lin Kei and Lu Cheng are very good opponents. Do your best and see how far you are from the top of the professional 9th pin. Hearing this, Hou Yu stopped all his restlessness and liveliness. He said solemnly, yes, master. In the live broadcast room of Donglin TV station, the host Wang Tian interrupted the guest Lin Maosheng and said with a smile, the front office has sent back the list of fighters and the order. Donglin team has Hou Yu, Zhou Zhenquan, and Zhui Yanjun. Songqing University Martial Arts Club has Lu Cheng, Lin Kei, and Sun Jian. That is to say, the first fight is between Hou Yu and Lu Cheng. Hou Yu versus Lu Cheng. Yan Shaoling moved the video window so that it was separated from the live post in the forum and focused more attention on the fight. The list of fighters was fixed, which meant that the fight could start at any time. With Kai Zongming leading the way, Zhang Jingye, Wu Qian, and the others hurriedly entered the training hall of Wenxing School. They were unfamiliar with the place, so they wasted a lot of time before finding the competition venue halfway up the mountain. They almost missed the beginning. As soon as they crossed the threshold, they were shocked by the solemn and quiet atmosphere. They thought they had gone to the wrong place and were stunned for a moment. They looked around until they found Lu Cheng and the others coming out of the locker room and sitting in the reserved seats. Then they settled down and breathed a sigh of relief. It feels weird. Wu Qian whispered in Zhang Jingye's ear. This made him very depressed and uncomfortable. It was completely different from the excitement he expected to vent his feelings. In order to cheer for the team, this time, Zhang Jingye had crammed some martial arts knowledge, but he still didn't understand the strangeness of Wenxing School's home ground. He could only explain, different home grounds have different characteristics. A cool wind blew through the mountain, making him shiver involuntarily. He felt like this place was like a tomb that had awakened ancient zombies. It was too old and too cold. Kai Zongming coughed twice to draw back the attention of Zhao Chang and the others. With the subtle feeling of leading a group of elementary school students on a trip, he led them to an empty seat and sat down. At this time, the referee stepped into the ring. After looking at both sides, he said in a clear voice, in the quarterfinals of Songqing Division, Donglin Squad vs Songqing University Martial Arts Club. The first round, Hou vs Lu Cheng. Lu Cheng took off his coat calmly and high-fived Yan Zhike, who was beside him. Don't be careless. Yan Zhike reminded him with bright eyes. Lu Cheng smiled. Don't worry. He mouthed the words, Coach Yan. He and Yan Zhike had discussed the issue of Hou many times. Seeing his girlfriend smile, he high-fived everyone along the way and shouted a slogan. Only then did he turn around and walk along the road, walking towards the ring under the gazes of the silent audience. Come on, Lu Cheng. Kai Zongming shouted subconsciously. He didn't fit in with the surrounding atmosphere, which made him feel like he was an idiot. He couldn't help blushing and whispered to himself, this is King embarrassing. Hearing this lonely cheer, Yan Zhike, Guoqing, Lin Hua, and the others looked at each other, stood up from their seats and shouted in unison, come on, Lu Cheng. This was the tacit understanding and feelings of the martial arts club gradually condensed in the previous months. With the response, Kai Zongming was no longer embarrassed. He raised his hands and shouted, come on, Lu Cheng. Why care about others' gazes? With him as an example, Wu Qian, Zhang Jingye and the others gradually plucked up their courage and made the shape of a trumpet with their hands, come on, Lu Cheng. Their voices echoed and encouraged each other. They gradually integrated into the group and shouted more and more enthusiastically, echoing with Yan Zhike and the others, breaking the quiet and old-fashioned atmosphere. There weren't many people, but they were firm enough. The audience in formal clothes were a little restless, as if they thought it would be more stupid to do nothing. So they applauded reservedly. In the messy applause, Lu Cheng stepped into the ring with a smile, warmed by the cheers of Yan Zhike and Kai Zongming. Opposite him, Hou shook his legs and scratched the side of his head, smiling sincerely, you are very strong. I'm a little nervous. Can you not talk to me? Lu Cheng laughed involuntarily and nodded graciously, okay. Sure enough, he is a child under 18. He thought like an old man. During the 3-minute conversation, in the live broadcast room of Donglin TV station, the guest Lin Maoxing smiled slightly and said, I've checked the information. Lu Cheng is already a professional 9th pin fighter. Every time you introduce him, you don't have to emphasize that although he has no rank, he has surpassed most of the professional 9th pin fighters. There was a time when I thought Lu Cheng would try his best to develop his supernatural ability and find a chance to participate in the ranking event of professional 8th pin after his body had been tempered to the current limit. Then he would directly become a professional 8th pin fighter. The host Wang Tian also sighed with emotion. Coach Lin, do you think Hou has a chance to defeat Lu Cheng? Lin Maoxing thought for a while and said, the hope is not big. But Hou is a seedling that Wenqing School focuses on. He must have something special. If Lu Cheng underestimates his opponent, he may suffer some losses, which will have a great impact on the final result of the competition. Wang Tian nodded slightly and said, Coach Lin is right. Our reporter has interviewed several disciples of Wenqing School and found that they are, inexplicably confident about Hou. While they were explaining, in Lu Cheng's fan forum, Brahman said, twisting with arms akimbo expression, these people are so unprofessional. Little Dragon is the best. He found out that our idol got a professional 9th pin certificate on the same day. Unparalleled Dragon King, said in a daze, when did I become Little Dragon? Are you going to call me Little Loach in the future? Besides, if you know his name and domicile, you can check it on the official website. After hanging out with girls like Brahman, Eternal Nightfall, and Wonton Seller for a long time, he felt that his mentality had become younger. Sometimes he would inadvertently act cute while talking. The internet is really scary. Little dragon, little dragon, little dragon, how many moves do you think our Lu Qing can beat this monkey? Yan Shaoling asked excitedly. Unparalleled Dragon King replied with a scornful expression, don't underestimate any professional ninth pin. If there is no unexpected thing, it will be very difficult for Lu Qing to win quickly. Oh, I understand. Yan Shaoling didn't feel offended and didn't mind exposing her IQ in this aspect. In the arena, Lu Qing kept his promise and didn't disturb Hou Yu. He adjusted himself to the best state and finally considered the next fighting strategy. During this process, he vaguely felt a sense of oppression and anxiety, as if a storm was about to come. Lu Qing felt that this was not because of Hou Yu, but because of Zhou Jinquan, who was the second to fight. Outsiders only knew that his stamina was limitless and he was not afraid of taking turns to fight, but they didn't know that his energy was limited. Thunder Roar Zen was okay, but he could only use Frost Force 3 times. If too much energy was consumed by Hou Yu, then when he faced Zhou Jinquan, it was very likely that he wouldn't be able to create the best chance for his brother-in-law to win. I must try to save energy in this fight with Hou Yu. And the best way to save energy is to go all out without holding back and try to win in 4 or 5 moves. Lu Qing took a breath and the ripples in his heart gradually stopped and the water condensed into ice. The referee looked at the electronic clock, raised his right hand and waved it down heavily. Start. Lu Qing was like a sprinter who heard the starting gun. The power that he had been accumulating for a long time burst out. He stamped his feet, straightened his bent knees, and quickly rushed to Hou Yu like a cloud leopard hunting for prey. He knew that in addition to Fly Fall Punch, Hou Yu also specially visited a famous teacher and learned monkey form, Kung Fu, which was very good at dodging. Therefore, he didn't directly prepare Frost Force and Thunder Roar Zen. If he missed, wouldn't it be a waste of energy? Facing Lu Cheng's attack, Hou Yu swayed his body like a flexible monkey. He flashed to the side of Lu Cheng and suddenly and quickly kicked out his right leg. At this moment, Lu Cheng's spine bounced, his waist and back wriggled, and his center of gravity swayed like mercury. He unexpectedly changed his direction in a split second and made Hou Yu's kick hit nothing. He immediately visualized rolling lead clouds in his mind and compressed the corresponding muscles one after another. He turned his waist and back and shook out his right arm like a hammer. Thunder Roar Zen. Hou Yu's face slightly changed. He suddenly fell back and did 3 somersaults in a row. Not only did he pull away from Lu Cheng, but he also firmly maintained his center of gravity. Lu Cheng didn't show any mercy. He exerted strength under his feet and crushed the black bricks. He chased after Hou Yu. Although you somersaults are fast, you can't be faster than me. Just when Hou Yu stopped, Lu Cheng had already caught up with him. He tightened the muscles of his palm, forearm, and upper arm and swung his left fist. The second move of Thunder Roar Zen. Chapter 204. The strong wind blew and Hou Yu's pupils suddenly shrank. His sight was occupied by Lu Cheng's figure. He felt that he had nowhere to hide from Lu Cheng's swinging left fist. At this critical moment, he curled up his body like an agile monkey and squatted down to dodge Lu Cheng's Thunder Roar Zen. Then, he put his left hand behind his hip and reached out his right hand to grab the enemy's crotch at lightning speed. Monkey steals peach, evading and attacking at the same time. It wasn't that Lu Cheng hadn't used similar moves before, but they were all improvised. He hadn't specifically practiced them, so the subsequent connection was quite rough. However, the peach stealing of the monkey shape was the result of countless years of hard work by countless generations of martial artists. The slightest carelessness in response would put him in danger in the subsequent changes. He was shocked, and the Thunder Roar Zen in his left hand burst out as usual, hitting the void and creating circles of invisible ripples. With the help of the subtle recoil, the bounce of the spine and the change of the center of gravity, he forcibly pulled his body and dodged to the side. Then he tightened his thighs and kicked Hou Yu, who was still squatting on the ground. Hou Yu didn't succeed in stealing the peach, so he immediately pressed down his left hand behind his back and jumped out with ease. He easily avoided Lu Cheng's kick and showed one of the changes of Monkey Steel's peach vividly. Taking advantage of this opportunity, he came close to Lu Cheng. He put strength in his abdomen, connected the fascia of his body, shook out his right arm and hit Lu Cheng at an extremely fast speed, leaving no time for Lu Cheng to prepare the tremor punch. Lu Cheng was not in a hurry. He put his arm up to block steadily and borrowed some strength. But at this moment, the strength in Hou Yu's shoulder exploded. He clenched his left hand into a fist and punched out, faster than Lu Cheng's counterattack and faster than his return. Fly-fall punch, continuous. The gurgling water flowed continuously. The core of this style of fighting was to abandon the use of both feet and purely use the muscles, joints, and fascia of the corresponding parts to make a move. The power of this style was definitely not as powerful as the former, but it was faster and more compact. Hou Yu hoped to disrupt Lu Cheng's rhythm of tensing up the muscles or preparing the ice-sect force. Win by speed. Seeing Hou Yu's left fist coming fast, Lu Cheng took a breath, put his right arm up, lowered his waist and put strength in his feet. Bang! Just as the two of them clashed, he straightened his knees and turned his back. Most of his muscles trembled as he sent out a strong swing force. Hou Yu suddenly felt that he was sitting on the rotary flying chair of the amusement park, and his body involuntarily flew to the side. He quickly adjusted his center of gravity in midair. As soon as he landed, he executed his footwork and fled forward like an agile monkey. Lu Cheng took large strides, pouncing and catching up. In a few steps, he had already caught up to him. His muscles, tendons, and internal organs changed accordingly. In his mind, he visualized a surging river. His Thunder Roar Zen might not be able to affect Hou Yu too much within 1 or 2 strikes, so his Frost Force was much safer. If he didn't take advantage of this opportunity to make this monkey stiffen up and allow it to jump around again, his energy consumption would be even greater. Feeling the breath close behind him, Hou Yu suddenly stomped his feet like 2 iron nails firmly nailed to the ground. His body turned around and swung his waist and back. In his mind, he visualized mountains and lakes that were constantly accumulating. Splash! The embankment of the lake collapsed, and the flood poured down in a terrifying manner. It affected the corresponding muscles and tendons of Hou Yu's body, so that he punched out both of his fists fiercely. His punch not only had a terrifying impact, but also had the power to slap the enemy and the swing force to throw the enemy away. It was actually a combination of several kinds of force exertion skills, which was really a high-level fist art. Fly-fall punch, dam break. Lu Cheng was so confident that he didn't dodge. Instead, he activated the cold current in his body and froze the surging river in his mind. Instantly, the waves became crystal clear, and the cold current turned into a tide. Frost Force. Bang! Hou Yu's punches were very skillful. They didn't hit left and right, but left and right. Combined with the momentum of the flood breaking the dam, they dispersed part of the cold force and threw Lu Cheng away. However, his body trembled as if a cold wind came from inside. His lips instantly turned blue, and his arms were obviously stiff. He didn't take the opportunity to counterattack. Thump! 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 He heard his own violent heartbeat and felt the blood gushing to his torso and limbs. I'm alive. For a moment, he actually had such a feeling. This was the result after he dispersed part of the cold force by himself. It's really terrible. After being thrown away, Lu Cheng stretched his body in the air and landed steadily. Then he took a step forward, stepped on the bricks, and turned around to launch a strong attack again. He wanted to take advantage of his opponent's cold and stiff body to force him to fight head-on. Facing this, Hou Yu seized the last moment, took a deep breath, and made a humming sound. He shook his muscles, fascia, and internal organs with the internal training method, and dissolved part of the cold. When Lu Cheng was about to come close, he lifted his leg and dodged nimbly. The two people, one chasing and the other escaping, kept changing their positions on the field, like a tiger trying to catch an ape. During this process, Lu Qing found an opportunity from time to time to use Thunder Roar Zen, but the result was that his opponent dodged again and again with his weird and flexible body movements. In the guest team seats, Yenjika slightly frowned her soft and beautiful eyebrows and said to herself, "Why do I feel something is wrong?" Gizershir beside her said leisurely, "He fought too hastily." "Ah." Yenjika turned her head blankly. Gizershir laughed and said, "After a life-and-death battle, you know that you have to go all out at any time. This is a good thing, but you also need to know how to judge the situation. No standard is suitable for all situations. Facing an opponent like Hou, if you blindly pursue haste and fierceness, you will get half the result with twice the effort." You can try to recall how many tremor punches he had missed. Yenjika suddenly understood, but her eyebrows were still furrowed. She clearly remembered that in the discussion a few days ago, the enemy Shi and Cheng had deduced the most was Hou, besides Zhou Zhenquan. The agreed fighting strategy was to focus on oneself, not to compete with Hou's body movements, but to seize the opportunity to use mercurial balance to block the follow-up changes and attack him at close range. But now Cheng is very impatient. Is there any change in the field that I don't see, so Cheng has to be like this? Is it Hou's trump card? In the arena, after a while of chasing and fighting, Hou, who was still affected by the frost force and consumed a lot of strength, gradually showed a little delay. Lu Qing shook his center of gravity and changed his direction continuously to block. Finally, Hou was half a beat slower and his opponent was in front of him. Lu Qing took a step forward with his left foot, guarding against the opponent's monkey steals the peach. His right arm tightened and compressed the corresponding muscles, and with the thunder in his mind, he blasted out a tremor Zen. This time, he had enough confidence and follow-up changes to make his opponent unable to dodge. Hou suddenly stopped, with a rare solemn expression. He lowered his waist, stabilized his center of gravity, and the corresponding muscles of his body suddenly contracted. In his mind, streams of water continued to gather and rise. In the end, they accumulated a mighty force and rushed down from the cliff. They fiercely hit the ground and splashed fiercely. Fly fall punch, waterfall. This was a rather difficult fighting style to master. It was similar to the tremor punch. This was a killing move that Hou had barely learned in the past 6 months, and he had been waiting to try it today. Bang! Lu Qing and Hou's fists collided, and there seemed to be circles of shock waves in the air. Both of them felt that their muscles and fascias were shaking and trembling. Hou, who had been prepared, wriggled his abdomen and made a humming sound to barely stop the shock. He seized the opportunity and rushed forward, throwing out a punch. Flying fall straight. At the critical moment, Lu Qing, who had been guarding against Hou's trump card, suddenly exhaled and made a sound like thunder in his abdomen, creating a reverse shock and counteracting most of the impact. His muscles wriggled and his spine straightened. When Hou's fist was about to hit him, he bounced back and stepped back steadily and orderly, calmly avoiding the blow. Then he stepped forward, swung his left arm, visualized a thundercloud, and hammered down fiercely. Hou had no time to dodge, so he could only forcibly raise his arms to resist. Bang! Under the thunder roar Zen, his body seemed to be beaten to the ground, and his qi and blood were rolling fiercely. Lu Qing would not give him any chance to dodge, so he unreasonably swung his arms and hammered again and again. Bang! 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 Hou was dizzy, and his qi and blood rushed to his throat. He staggered and barely held on with his last bit of willpower. Lu Qing stopped the thunder roar Zen and stopped in front of his opponent. Hou's eyes were blank, and his legs were weak. He fell to the ground without any external force and kept retching. Phew, finally won. Lu Qing exhaled a mouthful of foul air, and his mind was a little clearer. He felt the heat flow from the Jindan, soothing the tiredness of his body, and also felt a little empty in his head. In the guest team seats, Yenjika stood up happily with her fists clenched. Then she thought of the videos she had watched before. Most of the strong fighters who fought with Hou did not choose to fight steadily, but to attack fiercely, just like Cheng. Could it be? Her heart stirred as she thought of a certain possibility. Could it be that Hou Yu had a supernatural ability that could make his opponent irritable? Lu Qing rubbed his temples subconsciously, and also felt something was wrong. At the beginning, he had expected to go all out without holding back. Once there was a chance, he would not hesitate to use the frost force to finish Hou Yu quickly and save more energy. However, the more he fought, the more anxious he became. He even fought with Hou Yu's strong points, and missed several thunder roars in. The consumption was much greater than expected. He sobered up and recalled what happened before. Suddenly, he grasped the feeling of depression and impatience that he had felt at the very beginning. This is not normal. Can Hou Yu affect my mood? Lu Qing narrowed his eyes and could not help but look at Hou Yu, who was being helped down the stage. He saw that Hou Yu's legs were like noodles, and he could not stand steadily. At the same time, he also saw Zhou Zhenquan take off his coat and calmly walk to the arena. Chapter 205. Lu Qing wins the first round. As the referee's voice reverberated, Guo Qing, Lin Hua and the others in the away team seats were all excited for Lu Cheng's victory. Let's see how far Cheng can go in the fight with Zhou Zhenquan. Sun Jian said with joy and expectation. Li Mao nodded and said, yeah, in their eyes, Lu Cheng was famous for his abnormal physical strength. Taking turns to fight him would be useless. As long as he could defeat Hou Yu, he would be able to face the professional 8th Pin Dan stage Mighty One in his best condition. Feeling the high spirits of her companions, Yan Zhika bit her lower lip and said nothing. Others thought that as long as Cheng was not defeated, he would be able to face the challenges of the following opponents in perfect condition. However, she knew clearly that Cheng also had his limits. After the tremor massage in the ranking event, she found a chance to ask him about it. She knew that his physical strength was indeed abnormal, more than 10 times or even dozens of times that of ordinary people. However, his energy and spirit were not the same. Relying on meditation, he was only 3 or 4 times stronger than fighters of the same rank, which was still human. After such a battle, he would not be relaxed now. She thought of his perseverance in massaging her with the tremor force. She thought of his tiredness when he fell asleep as soon as his head hit the pillow. She thought of her own heartache and heartbeat at that time. She thought of his kiss when he was brimming with warmth and passion. Her eyes were filled with tenderness and expectation. Lu Qing, come on, Lu Qing. In the stands, Kai Zongming, Zhang Jingye and other followers showed their joy and excitement without hiding. They ignored the unfriendly looks and vented their feelings to their heart's content. When Zhou Zhenquan was about to enter the arena, they took a breather. Professional 8th Pin Dan stage. Will Lu Qing be okay? Wu Qian asked worriedly. Her forehead was covered with sweat and her cheeks were flushed because of the intense shouting. As a college student who grew up in today's society, even if she seldom touched martial arts, she still knew the common sense of ranks. Zhang Jingye said with a bright smile, it's okay. Didn't I tell you? Cheng's physical strength is so freakish that he has no friends. Now he is like a beginner. Although he probably can't beat an 8th Pin Dan stage fighter, at least he can create a lot of trouble for his opponent. Lin Ke will have an easier time later. Kai Zongming and the others nodded, making the girls in the female dormitory even more excited. This is going to be a good show. Yi Yaoting changed her sitting posture and stared at the ring with great interest. She was the kind of person who craved for the whole world to be in chaos. Although Lu Qing had left her with a deep impression of defeat and a sense of frustration for not being a genius, and although Zhou Zhenquan was a friend whom she called senior brother, she still hoped that there would be some unexpected excitement. She still hoped that both of them could fight to the death. Jiang Lan smiled faintly and sighed. With his stamina, little brother Zhou won't have it easy. Unfortunately, it was obvious that Lu Qing had not reached the peak of body refining. Otherwise, with such martial arts strength, coupled with the core force of the ice sect based on his supernatural ability and the continuous tremor punch, it was not impossible for him to defeat an 8th Pin fighter of Dan's stage. It was not impossible for him to fight for the certificate of professional 8th pin. Stepping into the dance stage meant reaching rank 8, but rank 8 did not necessarily mean that one was in the dance stage. In Lu Cheng's fan forum, Unparalleled Dragon King posted a post. Lu Cheng's fight just now was a bit strange. It was like he was trying to hit a mosquito with a hammer weighing thousands of pounds. Eternal Nightfall, Yan Shaoling replied with, Nike mouth, so what? Anyway, he won. With his stamina, what's the big deal about swinging a few times? I'm just saying it casually. Lu Cheng used to be very talented in fighting. This shouldn't happen. Unparalleled Dragon King was not angry at the little girl's rebuke. I don't care. I don't care. Anyway, he won. Yan Shaoling replied firmly. Brahman, who was watching the match attentively, also said, that's right. Who doesn't perform well on the spot sometimes? And his coach is super awesome. He will definitely give him a summary after the match. Unparalleled Dragon King could only send a, what else can I say, emoji. Little dragon, to what extent do you think my idol and that Zhou what you want fight? Brahman asked lively. Unparalleled Dragon King thought for a while and said, Lu Cheng's stamina is definitely at its peak. Even if he can't win against an 8th pin of Dan stage, it won't be easy for him to win. He will have to pay a certain price. And the longer the fight drags on, the better it will be for him. Ha, little dragon, you are such a good guy. Brahman generously sent a good guy card. In the seats of Wenxing School, seeing Hou being supported back, Zhui Yanjun couldn't help but sigh, little monkey, what a pity. Li Xingnan followed and said, sigh, if you didn't meet Lu Cheng whose stamina is like a bug, but Lin K, you might have won. Using the monkey form to constantly distract the opponent and make him use his killing moves because of his impatience. This could be an effective way to deal with a top professional 9th pin fighter. Not necessarily. Hou smiled bitterly and shook his head. My supernatural ability can only affect the opponent's mood, but it can't change their thinking. Other 9th pin fighters may be impatient, but they won't always use moves that consume a lot of energy. Speaking of this, he suddenly thought of Lu Cheng just now. He felt that Lu Cheng was like a bottomless sea. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't make him feel tired at all. In the end, he could still throw out tremor punch like a storm. It was terrifying. In the arena, Lu Cheng took a breath to relieve the emptiness in his mind. Looking at Zhou Zhenquan who was calmly walking up the stone steps, he started to think about his next move. He and Yan Zhika had discussed Zhou Zhengxuan's martial arts, strength, and characteristics many times, so he was quite familiar with them. After a brief recollection, the key points flashed in his mind. In view of this, Lu Cheng decided to think from Zhou Zhengxuan's perspective. He wanted to see how Zhou Zhenquan saw him. His most important impression of me must be that I have the supernatural abilities of flame and frost. With the latter, I have mastered one of the core forces of the ice sect. My physical strength is abnormal, and I am not afraid of taking turns to fight. I seem to be able to use tremor punch all the time. Thinking of this, Lu Cheng's heart suddenly jolted as he grasped a certain key point. His energy was limited, and he couldn't throw out tremor punch all the time. This was a secret that only he and Ku knew. Even his master only vaguely knew about it. In other words, in Zhou Zhengxuan's eyes, he was not tired at present, and it was impossible for him to be tired. Therefore, it was better to bluff and set up an empty fort strategy to create an opportunity to use the frost force. Lu Cheng felt a little regretful that his severe warning was just a threshold and couldn't be applied in actual combat. Otherwise, there would be hope for him to turn the situation around. Of course, after the fight with Hou, he had a new understanding of Zhou Zhenquan. The water sect had the move of accumulating strength and erupting suddenly, while the dance stage had the move of condensing the whole body's strength and erupting suddenly. The combination of the two may have an unexpected effect. Watching Zhou Zhengxuan's fights in the past 6 months, because he had never fought with a dance stage fighter, and all of them were professional 9th pin fighters. This didn't show, but it didn't mean that it didn't exist. He had to be careful of this. While he was thinking, Zhou Zhenquan, who had always maintained his composure, finally walked to the opposite side. He patted his dark martial arts suit, bent his legs, and leisurely made the starting gesture of fly-fall punch. Lu Qing put away all kinds of thoughts and put his body in the best condition again. This would be the first time he faced a complete 8th pin fighter. The referee raised his right hand, looked left and right, and then suddenly waved it down. Start. Lu Qing deliberately created an illusion that he was not tired at all. He turned his spine into a bowstring, bent it and then bounced it. Then he exerted force on his legs and leaped out like an arrow, launching an attack in a head-on manner. Zhou Zhenquan's eyelids twitched, but he looked self-satisfied and his posture didn't change. Dan's stage fighters had absolute reaction, so he didn't feel Lu Cheng's intention to attack. When Lu Cheng approached Zhou Zhenquan, he swayed his center of gravity and completed a sliding step like a flying fairy. In a flash, he flashed to the side of Zhou Zhenquan. He straightened his back, raised his right hand and was about to throw a downward punch. Zhou Zhenquan calmly put his right arm forward and took a step to the right. At this moment, Lu Cheng's spine squirmed, swayed his center of gravity again, and pulled his body back to the position before the sliding step. Then he stepped on the ground, shook his waist, and moved his fascia. His right fist was like a cannonball. However, Zhou Zhenquan's back muscles bulged, his spine bounced, and pulled his body back with the posture of mercurial center of gravity. Purely by the abdominal muscles, he shook his left arm as fast as lightning. Fly-fall punch, continuous. You can't hide from me when you are fainting and when you are making a real move. But you want to compete with me in mercurial center of gravity? Isn't this like showing off in front of a Luban? Lu Cheng's mercurial center of gravity would affect his strength, and once he lowered his waist, it would be obvious when he wanted to shake his center of gravity again. However, the mercurial center of gravity of a Dan stage fighter was based on the unity of the strength of the whole body, which had turned into an instinct of the body. He could use it and disperse it at will, and there was almost no connection problem. Bang! The two fists collided, and they shook at the same time. They were evenly matched. Lu Qing used his feet to exert strength, while Zhou Zhenquan only used the corresponding muscles. This was the gap between Lu Cheng and an 8th pin Dan stage fighter. After one successful move, Zhou Zhenquan's connection was faster and more compact than Hou Yu's. Under the situation of the unity of the whole body, his every move was equivalent to the strength of Lu Cheng's feet. Back strength, abdominal muscles bulging, shoulder explosive strength, fascia pulling, joint 1-inch punch. Zhou Zhenquan's moves were faster and faster, launching continuous attacks, leaving Lu Cheng no time to tighten and compress his muscles. He didn't even dare to use the strength of his feet. He could only reluctantly follow his opponent and make moves with his abdomen, back, joints, and fascia. After a few moves, he was almost beaten out of his stance and was in danger. However, Lu Cheng didn't panic. The current situation was what he had expected at the beginning of the attack. He was replicating the fight with Wei Xingtian. Since he didn't have time to compress his muscles and make a tremor punch, he would rely on his opponent's oppressive strength to do it passively, bit by bit. After a few moves, he consciously controlled his right hand, right arm, and right shoulder to complete the tightening. The thundercloud in his mind exploded, and Lu Cheng swung his waist and back. Under the impact of his opponent's continuous flood, he suddenly counterattacked with his right fist. The first move of Thunder Roar Zen. Chapter 206. Bang! When Zhou Zhenquan's shoulder exploded, he swung out his left arm and hit Lu Cheng's fist. However, it was like hitting a bomb. He only felt a buzzing sound in his ears. The impact was abrupt, and the strong shock spread instantly. He felt like he jumped on the spot. His muscles, joints, and fascia were all trembling involuntarily. Tremor punch. His pupils shrank slightly and he took a short breath. Lu Cheng was not going to let his opponent go. He straightened his back and tightened his left arm. He was going to swing his arm and hit continuously to create a more terrifying shock for the next Frost Force attack. He didn't want to give his opponent a chance to dodge. At this moment, he felt that with the short breath, Zhou Jingquan's rolling qi and blood, external strength, and living spirit seemed to be shrinking inward. The full outbreak of a mighty one of the dance stage. Lu Qing thought. According to what he had experienced and observed before, he bounced his spine and took a step to the side to avoid the front. He didn't want to use Thunder Roar Zen to fight with his opponent head-on. In that way, although Zhou Jingquan would suffer more violent shock, his body would definitely be broken up or even fly out. If he was careless, he would be defeated and unable to further weaken his opponent. He had to endure the impulse and wait for the best opportunity. But when he stepped away, Zhou Jingquan's qi and blood stabilized. His abdomen wriggled and his mouth made a humming sound. The contraction and consolidation just now were like an illusion. The shock stopped quickly. Zhou Jingquan put on a leisurely smile, as if he was saying, "I was just fooling you." He straightened his knees and pounced on his opponent again. His speed and momentum were so fast that they almost turned into substance and pressed on Lu Cheng's heart. Lu Qing couldn't help but feel a little annoyed that the opportunity he had created with painstaking effort was so easily solved by his opponent. However, the negative feeling disappeared in a flash as the lake in his heart froze into ice. This was a bad thing, but also a good thing. At least it made Zhou Jingquan sure that he wasn't tired. Because of this, he had to be cautious and look for a better opportunity to delay the battle. The real one who cut off all means of retreat was like a wolf or a tiger. Once he found blood, he would pounce on it regardless of his own safety. Later, he would be able to surprise him with this. In the face of Zhou Jingquan's flood-like attack, Lu Qing calmly took a few steps back. During this process, he maintained his center of gravity and footwork with his superb control over his body, as if he had another pair of eyes in the back of his head. While Lu Qing kept retreating, Zhou Jingquan kept attacking. The distance between them was quickly narrowing. When Lu Qing had accumulated enough strength and momentum to launch a fierce counterattack, imitating Lin Kei's story of retreating in order to advance, Zhou Jingquan swung his center of gravity and sprung his spine. Without any hesitation, he circled to the side. His timing was perfect, giving Lu Qing the uncomfortable feeling of hitting cotton with 1,000 kilograms of force. The ability of the dance stage, absolute reaction. Zhou Jingquan and Wei Xingtian had completely different fighting styles. What was effective for the latter might not work for the former, just like now. Lu Qing was once again pushed to the front by Zhou Jingquan. He was once again attacked by Zhou Jingquan's continuous momentum of fly-fall punch. Low kick, exploding shoulder, 1-inch punch, claw, and crushing punch burst out alternately. This time, Lu Qing learned to be smart. He calmed down and borrowed strength from the listening force. Instead of using his feet, he relied on the 24 blizzard strikes to cooperate with the corresponding body parts to make up for the disadvantage in strength and connection. Sometimes he pulled the fascius on both sides and quickly punched. Sometimes he swelled his back muscles to rebound and counterattack. Sometimes he outlined his abdominal muscles and borrowed strength to fight back. Gradually he grasped the meaning of 24 blizzard strikes and solved the flaws in his connection. The more he fought, the crazier, fiercer, and faster he fought. Bang bang bang. Bang bang bang. The two of them kept colliding in the small space, stirring up muffled sounds of fists hitting flesh and blood. At the end of the fight, Lu Qing deeply understood what it meant to have the strength of the dance stage as one. Even if he tried his best, he couldn't stop the disadvantage from coming slowly. During this process, Zhou Jingquan, who was wearing a black martial arts suit, constantly changed the direction of his mercurial balance to create an uncomfortable change of rhythm. This was to prevent Lu Qing from being forced to compress and use tremor punch. At the same time, Zhou Jingquan dispersed the accumulated strength of his listening skill and disrupted the connection of 24 blizzard strikes. He displayed a martial arts foundation that was far superior to his opponent. Zhou Zhenquan was not discouraged. He had only been practicing martial arts for half a year. Although he had undergone a complete transformation with the help of the Jin Dan and his own hard work, he was still far behind Zhou Zhenquan in terms of details and experience, who had been practicing martial arts since he was a child and had been practicing martial arts for a long time. Only when you find the problem and the gap can you know how to make up for it. Who would be at full level at the beginning? Lu Cheng was about to be defeated by the dripping water to penetrate the stone, and his opponent was about to defeat him in a way that didn't consume much energy. Suddenly, he stabilized his center of gravity and lowered his waist to sit in his crotch. He pushed his feet inward. When his arm touched Zhou Zhengxuan's fist, he suddenly turned his waist and back. His muscles and joints all opened up and threw out a strong swing force like a volcanic eruption. Zhou Zhengxuan's upper body immediately swung to the side, but his feet were firmly nailed to the original position. Crack! Obvious cracks appeared on the green brick where he was standing. His body fiercely bounced back. Lu Cheng had expected this. He took the opportunity to visualize rolling thunder clouds and tightened and compressed the corresponding muscles. Bang! He stepped on the green brick with his feet and broke it. His two shoes collapsed and turned into fluttering butterflies. The strong rebound went all the way up through his ankle and knee joints. Lu Cheng straightened his back and swung his right arm to punch Zhou Zhenquan with the force of 1,000 pounds. Boom! The thunder clouds in his mind exploded and there seemed to be a burst of vibration. Facing this, Zhou Zhenquan, who took the initiative to attack, didn't have time to dodge. He also visualized the accumulated water and the rising posture, completely integrating the rebound force into himself. Splash! The water current surged, flying straight down, hitting the ground, splashing up waves. Fly fall punch, waterfall. Bang! Circles of invisible ripples spread out from the place where the two fists met. Lu Cheng's qi and blood were surging, his muscles and joints were trembling obviously, and he felt like vomiting. But he was prepared. His abdominal muscles wriggled, and together with the thunder clouds in his mind, made a buzzing sound and counteracted most of the impact with a reverse vibration. Opposite him, Zhou Zhenquan also neutralized the impact with a humming sound. After a pause, Lu Cheng tightened the instep without shoes, turned his waist and whipped out a whip kick. Zhou Zhenquan seemed to recover faster than him. He calmly bulged his thigh muscles and kicked at the right time to block. Bang! The two collided in the air, and suddenly a little bit of white frost condensed and disappeared in a flash. Zhou Zhenquan felt a chill in his heart. He immediately felt the rolling cold wave penetrating his shoes, into his skin and into his blood, bringing a chill that made his body stiff. Ice sect force. His lips suddenly turned blue, and his eyes were full of surprise. Lu Cheng retracted his right foot, bent his body and was about to shake out his arm. But in his mind, the crystal-clear river sealed thousands of miles away, locking the kinetic energy. The so-called force could not only be released through the hands. It had been more than a month since he defeated the Azure Dragon squad. Although he didn't master the severe warning, he had practiced the frost force to his feet. Because his own special ability wasn't strong enough, if the cold wave passed through both his and the enemy's martial arts shoes, it would weaken to the point where the martial artist could withstand it. Therefore, he had taken the initiative to destroy his shoes just now, all for this unexpected kick. Zhou Zhengxuan's body was stiff for a short time. Seeing that Lu Cheng was about to take advantage of his surprise attack, he couldn't wait for the next round. In an instant, his qi and blood, his spirit, his willpower, and his whole body's strength all contracted to his abdomen, as if condensing into a human body Big Dan. Even the feeling of cold and stiffness was integrated into it. Lu Cheng knew that he was about to face the explosive attack of a Dan stage master, but he didn't dodge. Instead, he calmly adjusted his body and reluctantly visualized the turbid river flowing in the ice field again. He didn't have the energy to wait any longer. He had to fight with his back to the river and cut off all means of retreat. The cold wave rushed and froze the river quickly. Even the falling waves were condensed into ice crystals. Everything seemed to be still. Lu Cheng stepped on the ground, put strength in his waist and back, and pushed his shoulder, and threw out a cold punch. Frost force, cold wave tide. Boom! Zhou Zhengquan's human body Big Dan exploded, spewing out a mighty force, dispelling the cold and driving away the stiffness. Bang! His right fist was like a flood that broke through a dam, striking out powerfully. Bang! Lu Cheng was directly sent flying, and a layer of white frost condensed on Zhou Zhengquan's right arm for a short time. Thump, 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 thump. Zhou Zhengquan's heartbeats suddenly became so violent that even the audience at the side of the arena seemed to be able to hear it. Following that, his blood rushed out like a rushing river, breaking the ice layer and the stiffness. However, Lu Cheng's energy was already at its limit. He barely managed to successfully use the last frost force. Now that he was flying in the air, he wanted to adjust his muscles and regain his center of gravity as usual. He had more than enough strength but not enough heart. With a flop, he directly fell on the ground of the arena, which made Yan Zhika worried. Zhou Zhengquan stepped forward. His body was a little slow, but he rushed to Lu Cheng's side before he turned over and stood up. Bang! He tightened his thighs and quickly whipped out. Lu Cheng barely raised his arms to block, but he was whipped out of his stance. Bang! Zhou Zhengquan repeatedly kicked, not giving him a chance to breathe. The instep of his foot stopped at his neck. The second round, Zhou Zhengquan wins. The referee raised his right hand. Lu Cheng took a breath and stood up steadily. He didn't show his actual tiredness. After slightly nodding as a greeting, he quickly turned around and walked out of the arena. Although his first frost force blocked Zhou Zhengquan's martial arts shoes, and the second one was an arrow at the end of its flight, but the combination of the two could still beat a direct hit of the frost force. Of course, he couldn't give this professional eighth pin of the dance stage more time to recover. This could be considered to have accomplished the initial goal. In the guest team seats, Lin Ke took off his coat with a cold face and strode out. Chapter 207. In the stands, Yi Yaoting rested her chin on one hand and said with confusion, Lu Cheng's last choice was very reckless. Shouldn't he have retreated to avoid senior brother Zhou's explosive counterattack and patiently waited for the next opportunity? In that way, not only could he have successfully consumed senior brother Zhou's all-out attack, but he could have continued to weaken and hit the ice sect force again. However, he gave up the best choice and acted as if he had no way to retreat and no patience. He hurriedly added another ice force, which was really hard to understand. This was very inconsistent with her impression of him as someone who was good at improvisation. Without waiting for Jiang Lan's answer, Yi Yaoting suddenly thought of Lu Cheng's slightly impatient fighting style in the battle with Hou Yu. She connected the dots and felt that this was a change in the same vein. Then she remembered some words circulating in Wenxing's school and her private discussion with Jiang Lan. She suddenly understood and said in a low voice, "It's junior brother Hou's supernatural ability, right? Its influence actually lingered in this battle." "It's very possible," Jiang Lan said thoughtfully and then added, "but I don't think Lu Cheng's way of dealing with it is too big a problem." "Why?" Yi Yaoting blinked her eyes, looking puzzled. Jiang Lan smiled and explained, "Don't you think that little brother Zhou was so timid and overcautious just now?" "Sister Lan, you mean senior brother Zhou tried to defeat Lu Cheng with the least consumption? Is that wrong? There's still Lin Ke waiting behind." Yi Yaoting didn't think there was anything wrong with it. Jiang Lan sighed and said, "This may have something to do with the fact that he has only fought in the challenge tournament. According to my experience, the more you want to hold back, the more you want to defeat the enemy in the most economical and practical way, the more the loss will outweigh the gain. If junior brother Zhou had suppressed Lu Cheng with the continuous momentum and used all his strength at all costs, the result may be completely different. At that time, Lu Cheng would have no time to use the ice sect force. At most, he could use tremor punch. When little brother Zhou finds out that he only got a surprise attack of the ice sect force and an unnecessary outburst of his full strength, he will definitely change his fighting style. If Lu Qing chooses to dodge this time, he may not have the chance to give little brother Zhou another hit of the ice sect force. In other words, it was a matter of opinion whether it was better to hit the opponent with the ice sect force one more time, or to let the opponent consume another burst of his full strength. Yi Yaoting nodded, not fully understanding. She reconsidered the battle just now. In the home team seats, Zhui Yanjun, Li Xingnan, and the others looked at Hou Yu in surprise and joy. Junior brother Hou, your ability has improved again. Is it still affecting Lu Cheng's mood after so long? Hou Yu was confused and said, maybe he belongs to the type that is more easily influenced. Although he didn't quite understand this development, at least it was still within reason. In the fan forum, when the camera switched to follow Lin Ke, Eternal Nightfall, Yan Shaoling said, so angry. Why didn't they film him more during the broadcast? I really want to see him back on the bench. Me too. Brahman jumped out. Didn't you find a super beautiful substitute girl in Songqing University Martial Arts Club last time? I've always wanted to see if she had any interaction with Lu Cheng. Is she Lu Cheng's girlfriend? If she is Lu Cheng's girlfriend, I can barely accept it. Yan Shaoling replied, full of fantasy. A talented man and a beautiful woman, together every day, one asking for advice, one practicing a set of moves, and there will be physical contact from time to time. Oh, it's like dry wood burning with fire, burning at the slightest touch. Brahman replied, I can also accept it. After all, I'm still young. Who knows, there might be some rich and powerful love rivals. Then, Lu Cheng's martial arts will improve by leaps and bounds. Life is full of ups and downs. Don't bully a poor young man, Unparalleled Dragon King interrupted. What kind of novels and TV series do you usually read? And don't you think Lu Cheng's last fight was a little strange? I read all the novels in the boys' club. Brahman replied happily. Little Nightfall, speaking of this, do you still remember the ID Lu Cheng's girlfriend? Have you registered a similar one? Of course. But a lot of interesting ones have been taken. Yan Shaoling said indignantly. Brahman, what did you register? Me? I registered Lu Cheng's #1 fangirl. What about you? Brahman boasted. Yan Shaoling sent a blank emoji. I registered, Lu Cheng's daughter, Pht. Unparalleled Dragon King, Okamoto's fan, and the others all expressed their admiration. Indeed, Little Nightfall has no moral principles. Oh, Little Dragon, what did you say was a little strange? Yan Shaoling just realized. Unparalleled Dragon King joked, nothing, I shouldn't have discussed such a frivolous topic in such a serious situation. And after thinking about it carefully and analyzing it, it seemed to be understandable. Facing Lin Ke, Lu Qing held out his fist and bumped it with him to complete the handover ceremony. Then he lowered his voice and reminded him, don't get hurt. This was a home and away match. If his brother-in-law was injured, even if they won this match, they would lose the next match. Lin Ke took back his hand and nodded slightly. He passed Lu Cheng and went to the stone steps. Before Lu Cheng returned to his seat, he saw Yan Zhika coming to him with a big white towel. Does Hou Yu have supernatural ability? She asked in a low voice. Lu Cheng took the towel and wiped the sweat on his head and neck. He nodded slightly and said, I think so, that's right. It's impossible that a 9th pin fighter would be impatient for no reason when facing Hou Yu. Speaking of this, Yan Zhika's dimples appeared. She pursed her lips and said, he doesn't. Lu Cheng thought about it and said with a smile, he doesn't have an annoying face that makes the onlookers want to beat him up. Yes. Yan Zhika nodded quickly and returned to the guest seat with him. She let him put the big white towel on himself so that he wouldn't get cold because of the cold wind on the mountainside. Lu Cheng was sweating a lot at this time and wearing a coat would make his clothes dirty. That was a good fight. I got hit by your frost force twice. Now it's settled. Sun Jian and Li Mao stood up one after another. They praised him sincerely and high-fived Lu Cheng. After a short while, they sat down at the same time and looked at the arena again. Are you tired? Yan Zhika leaned to Lu Cheng and asked in a low voice. Yes. Lu Cheng didn't hide it. Yan Zhika felt sorry for him but couldn't hide her curiosity. She stared at her toes and asked softly, compared to the massage you gave me before, which was more tiring? Of course it was the shock force massage. My head is a little numb now, but I won't fall asleep as soon as my head hits the pillow. Lu Cheng didn't show off his tiredness and said with a smile, almost. Almost. Yan Zhika's eyes sparkled. She pulled Lu Cheng's hand and helped him massage the acupoints on his palm and arm. At the same time, she pretended to be calm. She pinked her cheeks and covered the place where they were holding hands with Lu Cheng's coat to cover their interaction. Lu Cheng unconsciously raised the corner of his mouth and looked at the upcoming battle with a warm smile. Zhou Zhenquan visualized a big river and made his blood flow like running water. The sound of splashing could be heard constantly. He wanted to wash away the frost and nourish his body as much as possible. This was the recovery method derived from the unique skill of the water sect. Lin Ke stood in front of him, arched his back, ready to attack. The referee raised his right hand and shouted, "Start." Lin Ke straightened his legs and straightened his back. He rushed out like a meteor and finished the attack with a speed faster than a professional ninth pin fighter. Ha! Zhou Zhenquan was shocked but didn't panic. He exerted force on his ankle and rushed forward like water released from a sluice gate. It seemed that he was going to confront the enemy head-on. Seeing that they were about to meet, he suddenly swayed his center of gravity and slid to the side of Lin Quebec. At the same time, Lin Ke also swayed his center of gravity and finished the change of direction. They seemed to be dancing a dance with tacit understanding. Seeing this, Jiang Lan put down her right hand that was supporting her cheek and blurted out, "Mercurial balance." Has Lin Ke already mastered mercurial balance? To have mercurial balance, one had to master meditation and forcibly control it with the spirit. Or, all muscles and tendons were almost integrated and the whole body's strength was smooth and transparent. In other words, Lin Ke was very close to the Dan stage. At this stage, not only did the fighter have mercurial balance, but also the body's muscles and tendons were trained to the finest detail. Together with the strong spirit, he was close to absolute reaction. At most 2 months, he can really step into the Dan stage. Jiang Lan came back to herself and couldn't help but sigh. He is twice as fast as me. He deserves to be a famous genius. Experts know when they show their hand. After a short fight, Zhou Zhengquan's heart became more dignified. However, compared to the fight with Lu Cheng, he didn't have to hesitate, worry, or be overcautious. He could really use his martial arts strength. He stepped on the ground and the strength rebounded without leaking out. He forcibly pulled back his center of gravity and took the initiative to lean toward Lin Quebec. Lin Ke also didn't dodge. He slid to the left, shook his shoulder, and popped out his arm. He clenched his fist and hit his waist. Bang! Zhou Zhenquan didn't dodge again. His back muscles swelled and his spine sprung. His right hand became a hammer and hit down hard. He once again launched the fly-fall punch, continuous. Puff! When the two fists met, he suddenly lowered his waist and sat down, making the strength, qi, blood, and all kinds of feelings in his body shrink and hug inwards. His whole body was like a big Dan. There was no warning at all during this process. He actually acted as if he was unleashing an ordinary attack. I know you will attack me before I completely get rid of the influence of frost. I will give you this opportunity. Chapter 208. Facing Zhou Zhengquan's sudden contraction, Lin Ke felt as if he had hit a lifelike fake, as if he had stepped into an almost real trap. His arm went limp, followed by a jerk. His whole body was like a spinning top that had been whipped. He shuddered as he took 2 steps back, as if he was trying to use the yin-yang twist to seek shelter. Zhou Zhenquan's qi, blood, and strength were all concentrated to a single point. In an instant, they gushed out like a volcanic eruption. His muscles swelled and propped up his fascia and skin. At this moment, Zhou Zhenquan seemed to have grown taller and bigger. Crack! The black bricks at his feet cracked and sank. Like an eagle, he flew out fiercely. In just 1 pounce, he was already in front of Lin Quebec. He visualized the accumulated flood and merciless surging. Then, he turned his waist and raised his arm, clenched his fist, and punched. Fly fall punch, dam break. His current ferocious aura was like a tiger returning to the forest, making it impossible for anyone to hide or avoid. This was the full strength of an 8th pin Dan stage fighter. At this moment, Lin Ke, who was retreating, suddenly stopped. All of his strength, all of his kinetic energy, and all of his qi and blood collapsed as if they had been preparing for a long time. Under the pull of gravity, they condensed into a ball. Boom! The sphere exploded, its power exploding and rolling out. Along with the image of a shooting star streaking across the horizon in Lin Ke's mind, it poured into his right fist, lifted his arm, and valiantly smashed it into the ground. Crack! Lin Ke pushed his feet inward and expanded his body. He twisted his waist and swung his shoulders, throwing out a punch like a meteor or cannonball. This. Jiang Lan's pupils shrank. She found that she had renewed her understanding of Lin Quebec. Force concentration was the main sign of the Dan stage. Although he could only condense it into a ball and not a point, it was enough to explain many things. Perhaps he could completely form a big Dan before the summer break at Songqing University. Bang! Zhou Zhenquan's and Lin Ke's fists collided with each other, creating a muffled sound. The air around them was blown away, creating a turbulent wind. Boom! Zhou Zhenquan felt as if he had been struck by a meteor falling from the sky. Not only did he have to bear the terrifying impact, but he also had to endure the subsequent explosion. He felt his bones and muscles tremble, his internal organs shake, and his blood and qi churn so much that he almost spurted it out. The meteor force, activated by imitating the explosion of the Dan stage, was truly extraordinary. More importantly, Zhou Zhenquan was no longer in his peak condition. The influence of Lu Cheng's Thunder Roar Zen and Frost Force still remained in his body. After one hit, he was almost completely paralyzed and temporarily lost his ability to move. Crack, crack, crack. Lin Ke, on the other hand, was being flung around by his opponent's boundless strength. He staggered backwards, crushing a brick with every step he took. After 5 consecutive steps, he finally steadied himself and exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. Under the effects of the flood that breached the dam, his yin-yang twist was unable to dissipate too much of the force. He had almost fractured his arm. This was the power of the combination of the explosion of the Dan stage and the dam break of the fly-fall punch. If Zhou Zhenquan was not stunned, he would have grasped the opportunity to win. Lin Ke stomped on the ground and his body bounced forward like a meteor toward his opponent. Kill him while he's down. Bam! After a few steps, Lin Ke lowered his center of gravity, rotated his waist, and the muscles on his back and arms swelled. He ferociously threw a left swing punch. Zhou Zhenquan had always been the kind of person who valued elegance over warmth. At this critical moment, his expression was calm. His qi and blood, strength, vibration, ice, stiffness, and spirit calmly contracted and condensed into a point again. He raised his arms and exploded the point in his body, letting the power roar out and drive his waist and back to suddenly turn around, sending out a strong and terrifying swing force. Lin Ke's fist just hit his opponent. It was like being hit by a 10-wheeled truck. His body flew out involuntarily, as if he was riding on the clouds. At this time, Zhou Zhenquan's power contracted again and condensed into a point. His body seemed to have lost all breath, all blood, and all feeling of being alive. Boom! That spot suddenly exploded, and the turbulent spurt was directed at his legs, shattering his shoes. With the help of this explosion, Zhou Zhenquan rushed to Lin Ke, who was just about to land in a posture that exceeded the limits of the human body. His speed and the leap made Yi Yaoding and other professional ninth pin fighters feel unimaginable. The standing long jump record of ordinary people couldn't be compared to this at all. Zhou Zhenquan's rush was like a fierce tiger hunting for its prey. Accompanied by the whistling of the wind, he arrived in front of Lin Ke when he just landed. He lowered his waist and sat in his crotch, continuously using force concentration for the third time, condensing all his feelings into a point in his dantian. At this point, he had already used all his strength, even the killing move used to deal with mighty ones of the Dan stage. Flying Flow Triple Hit. Normally, 8th pin Dan stage fighters not only had a limited number of times to use all their strength, but also in the continuous use. Once 3 or 4 times, the body would be overloaded and problems would arise. Zhou Zhenquan practiced the derivation of the unique skill of the water sect, which nourished him for a long time. Therefore, he was able to exceed the double explosion of ordinary 8th pin Dan stage fighters and complete the triple hit. Even if Wei Xingtian, who was also of the 8th pin, was here, facing his full strength, he would be in danger. This was the real deal of 3 or 4 moves for a life. Boom! That bit of strength exploded, and all kinds of feelings gushed out. Zhou Zhenquan's body swelled, his muscles distinct and vaguely enlarged. In his mind, he visualized the unceasingly converging flood and the unceasingly rising accumulating force. After the mighty force bounced back from his feet, he let the torrent pour down and hit the ground fiercely, splashing a loud and clear sound of splashing water. He raised his right arm and clenched his fist like a hammer. He really used all his strength and smashed down with a loud bang. Flying Flow Punch, Waterfall. This time, he wanted to keep Lin Ke in place and not send him flying. Bam! The air exploded as the fist smashed down. Lin Ke had just stabilized his center of gravity when he was faced with this despairing blow. He quickly took a breath, his body trembling, and his chi and blood condensed into a ball in an instant. In his mind, he visualized a meteor that streaked across the sky and ignited his body. He lowered his waist, crossed his legs, and got into a good posture. Since he couldn't avoid it, he might as well give it his all. Boom! The meteor fell to the ground and the ball exploded, causing Lin Ke's temples to bulge. Part of his muscles expanded, but the other part was unusually tight. Bam! He raised his legs and swung his waist. His right hand formed a fist and punched upwards as if he was moving or blocking. Bang! Their fists collided. Both of their bodies shook at the same time, as if they would bounce up in the next second. Zhou Zhenquan had the absolute advantage, so he didn't suffer much from the shock. However, the remnants in his body were far greater than Lin Ke's. Once triggered, his body shook endlessly, his chi and blood surged, and his throat became dry. This made his left leg, which he wanted to pull out, go weak, and he couldn't keep up in time. Lin Ke, on the other hand, was hammered down from above. His feet seemed to sink into the black bricks. His muscles and tendons were also shaken, trembling uncontrollably. At this moment, he was as stiff as a puppet, and eerily shot backwards as if he had been pushed in the chest by an invisible giant. Yin-yang twist. At the critical moment, he borrowed strength from the yin-yang twist, and used it to exile himself away from Zhou Zhenquan, to avoid the following attacks. Zhou Zhenquan's flying 3 consecutive strikes was extremely terrifying. After blocking and borrowing, Lin Ke still couldn't resolve it. He could only follow the momentum and fall to the ground, rolling continuously. If he didn't do so, he would have suffered serious internal injuries. During this process, Lin Ke controlled the strength in his body, continuously twitching his tendons and bulging his muscles. He quickly collided with the ground, diverting and borrowing the force again and again. Zhou Zhenquan managed to stabilize the shock and cold current with great difficulty. He was about to give chase when he felt his body become empty. He almost couldn't maintain his elegant posture. Sigh, if I could successfully throw myself out this time, Lin Ke would have lost. He couldn't help but sigh. If he hadn't been hit twice by the frost force, if he hadn't been hit by the tremor punch continuously, and if he hadn't consumed more energy than expected, now would be the time to reap the fruits of victory. Taking a deep breath, Zhou Zhenquan took a big stride forward. Just as he was in front of Lin Ke, he saw Lin Ke's right hand press down and use the momentum to flip over. Then, without warning, his left leg lashed out. It was fast and fierce, with a force of at least 1,000 pounds. Bam! Dan's stage fighters had absolute reaction, so Zhou Zhenquan wasn't caught off guard. But his body's reaction was half a beat slower, so he couldn't seize the best time to kick out. He could only barely tighten his muscles and resist with a low kick. Bang! During the collision, Lin Ke took advantage of the force and stood up again. He stepped forward and punched without dodging. At this point, Zhou Zhenquan was really close to his limit. But he found that Lin Ke was sweating like rain and his face was pale. Obviously, he wasn't relaxed, so he clenched his teeth and launched the continuous of the fly-fall punch to fight with his opponent in close quarters. Until now, Lu Cheng, who had been holding his breath since Zhou Zhengquan's 3 consecutive strikes, finally let out a long sigh of relief. He was shocked by his brother-in-law's near-death situation. If it were him, facing Zhou Zhengquan's outburst, even if he was in peak condition, he wouldn't be able to withstand it. After all, his frost force needed to be prepared and couldn't be used in a flash. Is this the real fighting ability of an 8th pin Dan stage fighter? While thinking, he suddenly noticed that Yan Zhika's right hand, which was massaging him, was tightly holding his left palm. Don't worry. He reached out and patted the back of his girlfriend's hand, comforting her. Yan Zhika tightened her pretty lips and nodded slightly. Bang, 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 bang. The more Zhou Zhenquan fought, the more frightened he was. He felt like he was facing an emotionless iron mask, without fear or worry. Obviously, he was tired, but his face was still indifferent and his eyes were still firm. He couldn't help but suspect that he had made a mistake. Lin Ke used the yin-yang twist as the core and the strength of his whole body as one. He launched the 24 blizzard strikes continuously. The more he fought, the fiercer and crazier he became. Gradually, his momentum overwhelmed his opponent. At this time, Zhou Zhenquan couldn't break out even if he wanted to. He had to hold on bitterly and wait for his opponent to reach his limit. After a dozen moves, Lin Ke twisted his whole body's strength and borrowed the rebound force. He raised his left arm and put his right hand quickly. Seabed burst punch. Bang! The exhausted Zhou Zhenquan raised his hands in time to block, but they were hit directly. Bang! Lin Ke used the rebound force and threw out his left fist again, stopping at Zhou Zhengquan's lower abdomen. Zhou Zhenquan paused his movement, gasped, and said confidently, "Okay, I admit defeat." Lin Ke breathed heavily and didn't respond. Sweat flowed over his eyelids, blurring his eyes. But his expression was still indifferent, and his eyes were as firm as usual. The referee raised his right hand and announced loudly, "Round 3, Lin Ke wins." Chapter 209. Phew. Hearing the referee's announcement, Wu Qian and the others, who had come to cheer for Zhou Zhenquan, finally spat out the tension and worry in their hearts. Although they had little contact with martial arts and had not watched much of the competition between body refining and Danqi realm, the momentum that Zhou Zhenquan had just shown and the horror that was beyond the limits of the human body were clearly reflected in their minds, making them unconsciously feel scared, fearful, and uneasy. It was like a person who didn't know how fierce and terrible a tiger was, but when he really met it, he would have the most intuitive feeling. When the pressure was relieved, they were delighted. They raised their hands and cheered for the victory, forgetting that they were in someone else's dojo and that girls should be reserved. Lin Ke was so handsome and charming. Lu Cheng had a girlfriend, but did he have one? Similar thoughts flashed through the minds of Wu Qian's roommates. Beside them, Zhao Cheng, Qiu Zhigao, and the others were also enjoying the taste of victory. The pressure of professional eighth pin in Dan's state was so suffocating. Listening to the shouts in the spacious and quiet atmosphere, Zhou Zhenquan patted his black martial arts suit, turned around leisurely, and walked down the ring unhurriedly, as if he had no intention of seizing the time at all. If he walked too fast, his movements would be unsightly. Thinking of this, he felt his calves were twitching and his thigh muscles were trembling. His body was showing signs of reaching its limit, so he had to walk slowly to maintain his elegant and calm demeanor. As for whether this would give Lin Ke a chance to recover, he was calm and not worried, because the focus was not on him, but on senior sister Joie. The distance he needed to walk down the arena was much less than the distance she needed to walk from the home team's seat to the arena. As long as he finished the stone steps before she ran, it wouldn't be a delay. In the seats of Songqing University Martial Arts Club, after hearing the cheers of Sun Jian, Li Mao, and the others, Yan Zhika finally relaxed her tense body and the lines of her pursed lips softened. She leaned towards Lu Cheng and whispered, "I thought my brother would lose just now." There was a little fear in her voice that couldn't be concealed. Zhou Zhengquan's 3 consecutive strikes seemed to be able to crush any professional ninth pin fighter. Under his clothes, Lu Cheng held the girl's hand and smiled. "I was scared too." Yan Zhika's eyes sparkled as she looked at the figure standing in the ring. She could not believe her own judgment and asked, "What do you think my brother can do in this round?" "Your brother isn't a true Dan stage mighty one yet. He has imitated the outburst of a Dan stage mighty one twice in a row. Come, to push the meteor force, the burden is definitely not small." There were some words that he couldn't think of to express at the moment, so he simply used the written language. And he also withstood Zhou Zhengquan's continuous outbursts. "I guess he's almost at his limit." What he was implying was that he shouldn't expect his brother-in-law to exhaust Zhuo Yanjun, or even defeat her. Yan Zhika showed her white teeth and bit her lower lip. Then she sighed, "I think so too." "Humph, you can't even say something nice to comfort me. Something nice to listen to." Lu Cheng smiled and said, "We've already won 2 rounds. Even if your brother didn't exhaust Zhuo Yanjun, and even if senior son Jian didn't defy the heavens, we only lost 2 to 3. When we return to our school, we still have a chance." Speaking up to this point, he paused, and said without arrogance or inferiority, "After suffering this loss and knowing that Hou has such a supernatural ability, I won't be so affected anymore, and I won't be so tired when facing Zhou Zhenquan. At that time, I'll be able to exhaust him even more, and even force out his continuous outbursts in advance, so that your brother can deal with him more easily and play the last round better. We have hoped to win 3-1 and turn the tables." Looking at her boyfriend's steady and high-spirited face and listening to his confident and not arrogant words, Yan Zhika's eyes sparkled. She unconsciously raised the corner of her mouth and nodded hard. In the fan forum, Eternal Nightfall, Yan Shaoling said, touching chin expression, "I suddenly feel that Lin Ke is not bad. He looks quite clean and good-looking. He also has a good temperament. Why doesn't he have a fan forum?" "Yeah, although I like my idol more, I have to admit that Lin Ke is better looking than him." Brahman also sent a puzzled emoji. Unparalleled Dragon King replied, "I also feel strange. Logically speaking, girls like you should prefer handsome and cool guys like Lin Quebec." And in the previous live broadcast interview, he showed a lot of character. "It's very, very indescribable. It's a little cute, right? Little dragon, I know you want to say this. Don't hide your girly heart." Yan Shaoling sent a funny emoji. "To be honest, I'm a masochist. I really like this kind of cool and indifferent guy. But who asked me to meet Lu Cheng first? Ha, I thought of that saying, once you meet Lu Cheng, you'll regret it for life." "What? You're a masochist? I don't know you. I don't have a son like you," Brahman said with a shocked emoji. Unparalleled Dragon King wiped his cold sweat. Little Nightfall, you're the most self-deprecating girl I've ever seen. After that, he added, I think the reason why Lu Cheng has a fan forum is because he created too many miracles in the Warrior Sage Challenge tournament. In the words of some novels, people pay more attention to him because he has the color of a legend. And after a long time, people will either hate him or become fans. I'm just kidding. Yan Shaoling spread her hands helplessly. Little dragon, what you said makes sense this time. I was influenced by Lu Cheng's crazy momentum when he defeated a professional 9th pin fighter. That's why I looked up his previous information. I was fascinated by him bit by bit. At this time, all the good names are taken by dogs, said, who says no one likes Lin Ke? I like him. But I prefer him and Lu Cheng as a couple. So it's better to stay here, haha. The other female ID, Nye Chi, smiled and said, in my opinion, the reason why Lu Cheng has a forum is mostly because of persevering fans like you, Little Nightfall. I quite like Lin Ke too. I thought of setting up a private forum for him, but I thought that after it was set up, only 1 or 2 people would chat in it. How boring would that be? Sigh, only you and Fan could persevere. Lu Cheng already had hundreds of fans in the forum, but only 20 or so showed up during the competition. Less than 10 familiar faces were spamming the forum. It could be seen how difficult it was for a martial artist of a lower rank to gather fans. Many people might have been interested in the forum at that time, but soon forgot about it afterwards. Hey, I was praised. I'm embarrassed, Yan Shaoling sent a blushing emoji. Brahman said excitedly, Little Nightfall, why don't you help Lin Ke to create a fan forum? We'll help you. Sob, I want to too, but I'm a loyal child. Forget it. How about I go in a sock puppet? Yan Shaoling replied without any sense of shame. Forget it. Let's leave it to Lin Ke's true fans. Unparalleled Dragon King suggested. Yan Shaoling nodded and said, that's true. Little dragon, do you think Songqing University can win today? Damn, why are you talking about such a frivolous topic at such a serious time? Unparalleled Dragon King complained crazily, and then said, it depends on how much energy Lin Ke has left. If he can give Zhuo Yanjun a tremor punch, Sun Jian will be easy. If he can't, maybe they will lose 2-3. They still have a chance to make a comeback at home. They played weird today. With the coach's summary, it will be different when the time comes. Yes, I understand. I won't cry if I lose today. Brahman interrupted. In the stands, Yi Yaoding was stunned for a moment. She looked at her companion beside her and asked, Sister Lan, why are you in a daze? Jiang Lan came back to herself and smiled. I'm thinking, if I were to face Brother Zhou at his peak, how confident would I be to not lose under his 3-hit combo? How confident? Yi Yaoding asked curiously. I'm not good at math. I can't figure it out. Jiang Lan rolled her eyes. How could she give a specific number based on her feelings? She thought for a moment and said, anyway, I'll be at a disadvantage. It won't be easy. After the preliminaries, I thought I had a chance to reach 7th pin. Now it seems that I was thinking too much. The ranking event for 6th pin and 7th pin would be expanded to include the combination of several provinces, such as the Southwest. Of course, places with many fighters such as the capital Huahai could hold it alone. As for the high-ranked Dan stage, that is, 4th pin and 5th pin, it would be a national competition. As for the top 3 pins, there were other rules. I thought I was the best among the professional 9th pin fighters. Yi Yaoding complained and made fun of herself. Jiang Lan turned to look at her and said seriously, you're already at the peak of body refining, and you've been through the preliminaries. It's time for you to take a break and think about the Dan stage. Otherwise, even Xiao Yuan will surpass you. He's gained a lot in Guangnan. Maybe within this year or in the first half of next year, he'll be able to reach the Dan stage. In the final round of the National University Martial Arts Competition in April, Li Xiaoyuan's Martial Arts Club of Guangnan University made it to the top 4, while Shanbei University, led by Peng Liyun, successfully defended its title. Yes. Yi Yaoting nodded with a rare solemn expression. When Zhou Zhenquan walked down the last stone step, leisurely, Zhuo Yanjun was already in front of him. After giving each other a high five, Zhou Zhenquan lowered his voice and said gently, "He's almost there. Don't be rash. Be careful of his counterattack." Okay. Zhuo Yanjun took a deep breath, passed Zhou Zhenquan, and stepped on the stone step. She was different from most of the disciples of Wenqing school. She also practiced Xianshui swordsmanship derived from Shuangwu true sword, which was quite powerful. She had an unusual devotion to martial arts. Every time she stepped on the arena, she would first express her gratitude to martial arts for changing her life. "I'm an ordinary girl. Except for my pretty name, my looks are ordinary, my personality is ordinary, my family is ordinary, and my IQ is ordinary. According to the normal development, I should go to an ordinary school, do an ordinary job, meet an ordinary boyfriend, experience one or several relationships, and finally step into the hall of marriage and live an ordinary life, just like what my parents showed me. Fortunately, I have the talent for martial arts, and now I can experience a different life." While expressing her gratitude, Zhuo Yanjun came to the opposite side of Lin Ke, thinking about Zhou Zhengxuan's words and waiting for the match to start. The referee ignored Lin Ke's breathing and raised his right hand. "Begin." Zhuo Yanjun immediately moved, avoiding the front. Using her arms as swords, she cut, chopped, pointed, and flicked. She fought very cleverly. Lin Ke stood in place, using his hands, elbows, arms, shoulders, and legs to block. He looked like he was struggling to hold on. Her feet slid, and Zhuo Yanjun flashed to Lin Ke's side. Her right arm slashed diagonally, full of strength. At this moment, Lin Ke's face was abnormally red. His back muscles swelled, and his spine squirmed. He forcibly pulled his body to face Zhuo Yanjun, avoiding the sword. He stepped forward with his right foot, closing in on his opponent like a meteor. Then he raised his left arm, and his temples bulged. His right fist shot out like a cannonball. This series of moves flowed smoothly. Unexpectedly, Zhuo Yanjun only had time to block with her elbow. Bang! The fist hit. Her body shook, and various descriptions of the tremor punch flashed through her mind. She was about to take a deep breath to counteract it, but found that the vibration was so weak that she didn't feel anything. An arrow at the end of its flight, it's hard to penetrate the cloth. Suddenly, Zhuo Yanjun thought of one of Junior Zhou's favorite ancient proverbs. With a flick of her right arm, she slashed out horizontally, stopping at the frozen Lin Ke's neck. She saw sweat dripping down his face, and his eyes revealed a look of disappointment and unwillingness. Round 4, Zhuo Yanjun wins. The referee announced the result. Lin Ke didn't say anything. He turned around and walked down. His expression didn't change much, but his legs seemed to be heavier. Lu Qing jumped up from his seat and went to him, trying to support him. When he reached Lin Ke, he saw this silent and introverted brother-in-law slightly lower his head. He heard him say with difficulty, "I'm sorry, sorry." Lu Qing was stunned. He didn't know where this "sorry" came from, but he soon felt Lin Ke's stubborn desire to win and unyielding pride. "Last time, after I defeated Wei Xingtian, I fought 2 more rounds to secure victory. I didn't let his desperate efforts go to waste. This time, although he defeated Zhou Zhenquan, he didn't have the strength to fight again. So he was unwilling, so he was in pain, so he was sorry." Everyone felt that losing was acceptable, but he didn't. He only had victory in his eyes. This was Lin Ke. Lu Qing reached out and patted Lin Ke's shoulder. He said seriously, "Win it back next time." Chapter 210. Win the next round. Hearing Lu Cheng's words, Lin Ke didn't speak again. He only nodded slightly, but the disappointment and unwillingness in his eyes had faded away. Instead, a faint but absolutely pure desire to fight burned in his eyes. At this time, Sun Jian walked to the two of them and said half jokingly and half self-deprecatingly, "I always said that you two would deprive me of the opportunity to fight, but now I really hope that you two won't give me such a chance." If this was a chat on the internet, he would have added a laugh and cry emoji. Lu Cheng was almost amused by him. He deliberately said in a serious tone, "Fight well and enjoy the greeting of a professional ninth pin." "Enjoy?" Sun Jian suddenly shivered and looked up at Zhuo Yanjun, who was neither red nor out of breath. He had the illusion that a frog was about to challenge a poisonous snake. How to fight a professional ninth pin who was almost in perfect condition? This wasn't enjoyment, it was torture. However, if he didn't face a professional ninth pin directly, how could he figure out his own problems? How could he dare to face his own father in the graduation season? He took a breath and reached out his right hand to Lin Quebec. Lin K's expression returned to indifference, but he still raised his arm and bumped Sun Jian's right palm. As a psychology student, he knew very well that such ceremonies were to cultivate a sense of community and strengthen cohesion. But he didn't want to expose it and exclude himself. Sun Jian walked past his two companions and went up the stone stairs to the arena. Although he wasn't as nervous as Li Mao, he couldn't help but feel nervous. The gap between him and Zhuo Yanjun couldn't be filled by shouting slogans and shouting hot-blooded words. Last year, when Qin Zhanghua challenged Lin Ke, he was already one of the best fighters of amateur first pin. He was so proud of himself that he wanted to take part in the professional ranking event. However, he was utterly defeated. After that, he practiced hard for more than half a year. It was not until the end of last month that he successfully broke through and got the coveted professional ninth pin certificate. Zhuo Yanjun was rated as a strong ninth pin, so her strength should be about the same as Lin Ke's from last semester, or even a little bit stronger. But now, Lu Cheng, who wrote amateur third pin and studied amateur second pin, was still a lot weaker than Qin Zhanghua at that time. 1 plus and 1 minus, the gap between them was obvious. "Forget it, I'll show my style and spirit." Sun Jian consoled himself and got into position. When the referee announced the start of the match, he followed the plan and did not engage in guerrilla warfare. Instead, he unexpectedly launched an attack. His bent back and knees straightened, and he pounced on his opponent like a ferocious tiger. Although Zhuo Yanjun did not expect such a change, her strength was there, and she was confident. She calmly took a step forward and blocked the path of Sun Jian's footwork. Her right shoulder exploded, and her arm slashed vertically like a sword. Pa! The muscles on Sun Jian's right arm swelled, and with a shake of his arm, his fist ferociously smashed out, blocking his opponent's chop with a bang. At that moment, his joints popped, and he used the 1-inch force. His 5 fingers opened, and his fist turned into a claw. In a flash, he grabbed Zhuo Yanjun's forearm. Flower-parting willow hand. Zhuo Yanjun's arm softened and turned into noodles. Immediately after, she shook her strength and tightened it into a sword and an iron pole. She directly flicked Sun Jian's fingers away. She turned sideways, her abdominal muscles swelled, and her fascia pulled. Using her left elbow as a dagger, she quickly stabbed out. This was the combination of fly-fall punches, continuous, and black-water sword techniques, close-range stab. It was fast and extremely compact. Sun Jian did not have time to dodge, nor did he have time to use his legs. He could only force his shoulders to block with his arms. Bang! He was knocked back a step, but Zhuo Yanjun was unforgiving. She continuously attacked, and in a few short moves, he was flustered. In the end, he was stabbed in the chest by a sword, and the pain was so great that he almost fainted. Round 5, Zhuo Yanjun wins. The final result, Donglin's squad wins. The referee's announcement made Zhang Jingye and the others fall into silence. In return, the home audience applauded in a reserved manner. Phew. Lu Cheng and Yan Zhika exhaled at the same time, looking a little gloomy. Although this was an expected loss, and although there was still a chance for a comeback, a loss was a loss, and the result would not make people happy. Seeing the live reporter from Donglin TV station coming over, Lu Qing quickly calmed down and turned to ask Yan Zhika, "Is my expression okay?" "No." Yan Zhika pursed her lips and smiled, her eyes shining. "Good luck." "Okay." Lu Qing took off the big white towel draped over his body and stood up. "Hello, Lu Qing. I'm Zhang Hai, a reporter from Donglin TV station. Can I interview you?" The reporter said the same opening lines. Lu Qing did not hide the gloominess of his defeat. "Sure." Zhang Hai was a young man in his 20s. He looked quite amiable. Hearing this, he smiled and said, "Lu Qing, you guys have done well today. If it was a full score of 10, I would give you 9. I've read your profile. This should be the first time you've encountered a professional 8th pin of the dance stage in perfect condition, right? What do you think?" Lu Qing pretended to ponder and said, "Very strong. I was suppressed in all aspects, but I think I could have done better." "Oh, why do you say so?" Zhang Hai asked with interest. Lu Qing smiled bitterly. "Maybe it's because I cared too much and didn't have enough experience. I was very anxious in the first round and wanted to finish my opponent in one go. Not only did I make a lot of mistakes, but I also carried this emotion to the second round. I didn't make a better choice at the critical moment." He did not expose Hou Yu's supernatural ability and pretended to be ignorant, so that the Donglin squad could still rely on this in the next round. "All is fair in war." "I see. You've only been practicing martial arts for half a year. It's normal that you lack experience. Don't worry too much." Zhang Hai comforted him and continued to ask questions according to the outline. After a few questions, he politely stopped and went to interview Lin Quebec. Lu Qing took 2 steps back and leaned to Yan Zhika. He lowered his voice and said, "Ku, how was my performance just now? Would they see through my lies? Would it alert the Donglin squad?" Yan Zhika smiled and nodded with obvious dimples. "Very sincere and true." Speaking of this, she rolled her eyes and said with a faint smile, "I feel that you're good at lying. Will you lie to me like this in the future?" "This." Lu Cheng's mouth was half open and he was speechless. This was completely different from the answer he had expected. "Shouldn't you praise me? You were the one who taught me this deception strategy." "I feel like I've been tricked again." While thinking, he laughed and said, "How can I hide this little trick from you, Coach Yan? I'll lie to anyone but you." "Yes, yes." Yan Zhika nodded first and then said with a serious face, "You'll lie to anyone but me? Tell me, which girl do you want to lie to? This is all a trick." Lu Qing was stunned and did not dare to answer casually. Looking at his stupefied look, Yan Zhika finally could not help but laugh. She completely calmed down from today's regretful failure. The silly Cheng is so adorable. On the other side, Zhang Hai stood in front of Lin Quebec. As usual, he made the opening remarks first and then asked, "Lin K, what do you think of the continuous outbursts of an 8th pin dance stage fighter today?" Lin K took a white towel to wipe his sweat and said calmly, "Very strong. He is really a man of few words." Zhang Hai kept smiling and said, "Then what do you think of your performance?" "Lost." Lin K spat out 2 words and then turned to walk to the away team locker room. "Lost? What kind of answer is this? I'm asking for your evaluation." Zhang Hai was confused. Not far away, Yan Zhika sighed and whispered to Lu Cheng, "In my brother's dictionary, losing means bad. Did losing equate to being very bad?" Lu Cheng could not help but think about this sentence. Although he would hate any kind of failure, he would not be as extreme as Lin Quebec. It was true that different people had different personalities. Thinking of this, he felt a little sympathy for the poor reporter who needed a translator to interview his brother-in-law. The return trip was still a busy one. It was almost 9 p.m. when the martial arts club members arrived at the new campus of Songqing University. For convenience, they ate the high-speed train meal on the way. Seeing Yenjika's tiredness, Lu Qing did not try to lure her to take a walk by the lake. Instead, he held her hand and walked slowly on the pedestrian street. Their destination was the dormitory of the third building. When they were about to reach the door, he remembered that the bonus had been paid into his account and he could buy a ring. So he began to consider his words and asked Yenjika to go shopping tomorrow. Considering their current intimacy, there was no need to ask so seriously for a date. But Lu Qing wanted a surprise, so he was thinking about what excuse to use. Yenjika looked up and thought shyly and awkwardly whether she should take the initiative to propose a date tomorrow and take Qing to buy a ring to surprise him. If she wanted to propose, what should she say? She pursed her lips and looked to the side. When she was about to say something, she suddenly heard Lu Qing say with a smile, "Ku, would you like to go shopping with me tomorrow? My martial arts shoes are broken again. I need to buy a pair or two." Before Lu Qing could finish his excuse, he saw Yenjika smile sweetly. Her smile was so bright that even the light from the surrounding street lamps was taken away. Okay. Okay. Lu Qing did not know why the girl was smiling so happily, but he could not help but smile as well. Back in the dormitory, Lu Qing found the small dormitory empty. He immediately understood that Zhao Chang and the others would play in Donglin for a day to make friends. TSK, only girls can make Chang temporarily abandon his studies. He shook his head with a smile. Carrying a hot water bottle, he walked out of the small dormitory and prepared to wash up. At this moment, he heard the sound of the key turning and saw the door open. Kai Zongming walked in. "You're back." Lu Qing was startled. Kai Zongming smiled, "Surprise? Surprise your ass." Lu Qing looked behind Little Ming in confusion. "Where are Chang and the others?" "They're still in Donglin. The train leaves at 5:00 tomorrow afternoon." Kai Zongming said matter-of-factly. "Then why did you come back by yourself?" Lu Qing asked, amused. Kai Zongming said, "I have special training tomorrow morning. Besides, I already have a girlfriend. I just need to help them get together. Why would I want to watch the model worker show off his love?" "Oh." Lu Qing showed his understanding with a smirk and said with emotion, "Talker, I didn't expect you to stick to the special training." Kai Zongming's face became serious. "Of course. I'm a man of my word." Then he pretended to be excited and said, "Qing, I'll make up for the bench seat next semester." Chapter 211. You'll fill the bench? Lu Qing looked at Kai Zongming from head to toe. He suddenly shook his shoulder and stretched out his right hand, grabbing Kai Zongming's left arm. His martial arts had been trained to the point where his muscles were so small that just the strength of his wrists and fingers could not be said to be able to tear apart iron chains, but at least he could tear apart flesh and blood. At this moment, his 5 iron fingers pierced through the air and unexpectedly let out a sharp whistling sound, full of momentum. Kai Zongming was shocked and immediately moved his left arm back to avoid the attack. Lu Cheng's first grab was a feint, but his first step was for real. His left foot caught up with Little Ming's, and he leaned and squeezed, causing Little Ming to take a step back and hit the back of the simple sofa. Little Ming lost his balance and was about to fall on his face. Lu Qing stretched out his right hand again and grabbed Kai Zongming's arm. He pulled Kai Zongming back and helped him regain his balance. During the whole process, Lu Qing never put down the hot water bottle in his left hand. He looked at Little Ming, who had a baffled expression on his face. He raised his right index finger and shook it. He said with a smile, "Too weak. You want to dominate the bench of the martial arts club with this level of skill?" Kai Zongming realized. He was angry and amused. "You're so cheap that I want to beat you up." Lu Qing was also amused. "Come on, you're a dog if you don't beat me up." Kai Zongming was so angry that he almost spat out blood. He said solemnly, "How can a cultured and well-mannered person like me be so violent? Come on, let's compete in games." As long as you can think of it, you can take your pick. Okay, I'm not afraid of you. Before he had a girlfriend, Lu Cheng was also a teenager who liked to play games. But now he was short of time and could only play games occasionally. In the end, Lu Cheng lost miserably because he thought that replying to Yan Zhika's messages was more important than playing games. He was repeatedly delayed at critical moments and was trampled by Kai Zongming. Kai Zongming didn't reply to his messages because his straight-A student girlfriend Fang Yuan was still immersed in self-study. After relaxing, it was time for the usual training. The next morning, before dawn, Lu Cheng appeared by the Weishui Lake. Following the predetermined procedure, he repeated the still stance, moving stance, and other moves one by one. Practice makes perfect. This time, he spent more time on practicing the simplified physical invulnerability move, severe warning. He wanted to get started as soon as possible so that he could deal with Zhou Zhenquan. Now that they had reached a situation where they had to win 3-1, and since they had expressed their desire and confidence to win back Yan Zhika and Lin Ke, they had to seize every opportunity to improve themselves. So far, mastering their most powerful killing move was definitely a crucial step. Lu tried his best. But it was too difficult, he felt. There was no shortcut. Foots. This made him a little impatient. He had to open his eyes and breathe in the fresh morning air to calm down the ripples. Geezer Shi, who was watching leisurely, laughed. Do you want to master severe warning before Sunday? I have to try. Lu Cheng blushed. Geezer Shi walked over with his hands behind his back and said with a smile, even if it's just a simplified version, physical invulnerability moves aren't something you can master easily. Even if you can create miracles like the previous few times and barely grasp the basics before the weekend competition, it won't do you any good. Do you think Zhou Zhenquan will stand there like a wooden stake and wait for you to prepare your severe warning? Wait for you to meet force with force? You need a short time to master your frost force, not to mention the severe warning you just learned. If you really put your hope on this move, you will be like a 3-year-old child holding a 1,000-pound hammer. Not only can you not hit the enemy, but you can also hurt yourself. Lu Cheng took a deep breath and felt that what his master said made a lot of sense. He had been too optimistic about it. Fighting with an 8th pin Dan stage fighter, who was much more experienced and powerful, an unskilled move would only be a failure. Master, what should I do? Lu Cheng finally thought of asking for advice. Geezer Shi coughed twice and said, as an elder in your life and as your teacher, I have the responsibility to tell you that failure and setbacks are not things that you can avoid if you want to. Reality is not a game that you play. Not every obstacle is within your ability. Looking at the history of martial arts development, only a very few seniors who were second to none in terms of talent and luck were able to achieve undefeated in their lifetime. However, after the rise of professional competitions, the number of fights between the strong increased dramatically. This kind of feat can no longer be replicated. Experts as strong as the Dragon King, the Warrior Sage, and Geezer Shi paused for a moment before continuing, and some other experts have tasted failure and setbacks. It's not a bad thing for you to experience this earlier. I've seen many talented young martial artists who had a smooth start to their career and won many battles. Their confidence was inflated to the extreme. When they encountered an unexpected defeat, most of them couldn't accept it and were left with a serious flaw in their mentality. From then on, their improvement slowed down and they became ordinary people. Failure and setbacks not too early or too late can make you recognize your own limits. Recognize the limits of 1 year and 10 years. Then you will understand what you should do, what you should not do, why you should be in pain, and why you should not be in pain. Fighters who have survived many life and death battles have such characteristics. They know what is impossible, know what is risky, and know the limits of their ability. Lu Cheng listened thoughtfully and nodded slightly. Indeed, after the battle with Zhou Zhenquan, he realized the lack of experience and the gap between realms. After defeating Wei Xingtian, the slight contempt he had for the 8th pin Dan stage had completely disappeared. If it was not so, he would not have thought of practicing severe warning. And this kind of failure only made him more determined, without too much pain and shaking of confidence. 1 year later, when he fought with Zhou Zhenquan alone, he might not necessarily lose. But, to be honest, he really did not think this was a setback. Master, I understand. Lu Qing exhaled and answered. But what should I do now? I think we have a chance to turn the tables. Geezer sure laughed. Now. Continue practicing severe warning. Ah. Lu Qing was confused. I have studied a lot. You can't lie to me. You didn't say that just now. Geezer sure said leisurely, the purpose of practicing severe warning is not to master it, but to use it to further master Frost Force and Thunder Roar Zen. This is what you have to fight against Zhou Zhenquan. Got it. Lu Qing suddenly realized. He had almost gone astray. The older, the wiser. After Lu Qing finished practicing hard and began to run around the lake, Geezer sure hummed a little song and walked to the martial arts club leisurely as if he had drunk 10 pounds of wine. He had held back those words for several months, and now he finally had a chance to say them. He felt really comfortable in both body and mind. He felt that the sky was blue, the water was clear, the wine was good, and the air smelled better. In order to prepare for that lesson, I carefully selected a few simple but meaningful words and specially consulted the young teacher next door. I chose the most acceptable game analogy for teenagers. Do you think it is easy for me? Geezer sure drank a mouthful of wine happily. At 2:00 in the afternoon, Lu Qing woke up from a nap to relieve the tiredness from the hard practice. At the thought of going shopping with Yan Zhike and finding a chance to give her a ring of great significance, he was so excited that he rushed into the bathroom, cleaned himself up, and combed his hair until it looked fresh and clean. What should I wear? Should I wear something more formal to give her a ring? The inexperienced Lu Qing went back to the wardrobe and fell into deep thought. It was the middle of May, and the sun was shining brightly in recent days. Short-sleeved t-shirts and jeans were the mainstream outfit. Recalling Little Ming's guidance, he picked a pair of casual pants and a navy blue shirt. After thinking for a while, he added a thin jacket. Although it was silly to wear a jacket in this temperature, the air conditioner should be on in the mall. If Ku felt cold, the jacket would come in handy. Ha! Lu Qing went out feeling good about himself and came to the door of the third dormitory. After a few minutes, he saw Yan Zhike appear at the entrance of the unit. She was wearing a white half-sleeve dress with a small waist, highlighting her slender figure. The hem of the dress was just above the knee, with the tulle wrinkles, elegant and light. Coupled with her delicate facial features, elegant and graceful, and her long hair fluttering when she walked, Lu Qing really felt like he was looking at a fairy. Although they saw each other every day and he was used to it, he was still amazed by her beauty from time to time. Maybe this is beauty in the eye of the beholder. Yan Zhike was wearing a pair of white shoes. She didn't wear a very mature outfit, which fully displayed the most charming youth and pure beauty of her age. Feeling her boyfriend's passionate gaze, she was a little shy. She outlined her dimples, looked to the side, and said as if nothing had happened, "Let's go." Lu Qing held her hand and said shamelessly in a low voice, "I thought I saw a fairy just now." Yan Zhike's bright eyes narrowed. She said with both anger and delight, "You're so mushy." Hee hee. Lu Qing chuckled. Only then did he notice that the girl was carrying a light orange-red sling bag, which added a touch of color to her plain outfit to prevent her from looking monotonous. "I think your bag looks familiar," he said casually. "It's like, Yan Zhike chuckled and helped him add, "like the yellow bag that old ladies carry when they go to pray to Buddha." "Yes, yes, yes. Except for the different color, everything else is similar." Lu Qing nodded hard. "I don't know what foreign designers think." Yan Zhike chuckled. "I remember LV has a red, white, and blue handbag, which is similar to our woven bag." "Ha, yeah, I've also seen that news." Lu Qing echoed with a smile, and then said in confusion, "But I remember it's Louis Vuitton in the news, Yenjika suddenly burst into laughter. She turned to look at him, her eyes sparkling as she said, "Idiot. LV is the abbreviation of Louis Vuitton." Lu Qing wiped his non-existent cold sweat. "I always thought they were two brands." He learned something new again, Yenjika chuckled. "My other cousin also thought so before he had a girlfriend." "Well, remember, it's also nicknamed Donkey Brand. The knowledge of boys and girls is really different." Lu Qing once again felt that Coach Yen was indeed his life mentor. They talked about all kinds of things and seemed to have endless topics to talk about. It was not until they boarded the school bus and sat side by side that they suddenly quieted down for a moment. "Later on, according to the predetermined opportunity, I'll give her the ring in a surprise way." Lu Qing smiled and looked at the aisle, not letting her know what he was thinking. How embarrassing it would be to give each other rings later. And how should I hint to Qing? I can't suggest it directly. Yenjika turned to look out of the window, shy and happy. Chapter 212. The school bus started to move slowly. Yenjika recalled something and pulled Lu Cheng's hand. She pouted and said, "Cheng, our plan of deception is probably useless now." "Why?" Lu Cheng was puzzled and held the girl's left hand. Yenjika answered with slight annoyance, "I forgot about Coach Shi. He's a mighty one with physical invulnerability. The elders of Wenqing School wouldn't be so naive as to think that he couldn't see anything. Oh my god, how embarrassing. As the IQ of the martial arts club, I actually made such a big mistake. It was all because Coach Shi's presence had been too weak during the previous competition. He had been the one to analyze the situation between himself and the enemy, and he had forgotten that there was such an old senior. Yes, it's all his fault." Lu Qing didn't think much about it at that time. Now that he heard his girlfriend's words, he immediately realized. "You're right. It's mainly because during the preliminaries, we were like children without a mother. I almost forgot that we had a coach." "You think so too?" Yenjika was so moved that she almost burst into tears. She looked at Lu Qing pitifully and shook his hand gently. "Right? It's not my fault. And he hasn't reminded me of this since the end of the competition." Lu Qing mumbled to himself. "When I went to the Warrior Sage Challenge tournament, my master didn't tell me what to pay attention to for the first time either. I don't know if he forgot, or he was too lazy, or he purposely gave me a chance to train." Yenjika found an ally and felt relieved. She thought for a while and said, "Maybe we can beat him at his own game, huh?" "What do you mean?" Lu Qing asked in confusion. Yenjika pulled back her hand and unlocked her phone. She opened her notebook and typed quickly while telling her boyfriend, "You see, the depth of our thinking is like this. On the first level, we pretended not to notice Ho Yu's supernatural ability. Wenqing School knew that we had a mighty one with physical invulnerability and saw through our act. They wouldn't be fooled, so they changed the original plan from A to B, thinking further down, which is the depth of our thinking just now, is called the second level. We thought of the flaw of the physical invulnerability coach and understood that the deception plan had failed. We knew that the Wenqing School wouldn't follow the original plan of relying on Ho Yu's supernatural ability for the competition." "What about the Wenqing School? They should have expected us to notice this. Even if we didn't, the physical invulnerability instructor would have warned us. Therefore, the improved version of Plan A is even more unexpected." Lu Cheng was a little confused, but he was still a student who got into Songqing University on his own merit, so he managed to grasp the main point. "Cool, this kind of deep thinking game can be played continuously, right?" I know something." "That's right. There's only one key point in analyzing the depth of one's thoughts, and that is to accurately determine which level the other party is at, and then let oneself be one level deeper than the other party." Yenjika typed quickly and focused on her analysis. "Our current information focuses on the martial arts and fighting styles of the members of the Donglin squad. We lack information on their personalities, habits, and social interactions. For now, we can only make a preliminary judgment. Their depth of thinking is probably at the second level. Listening to her serious analysis and looking at her focused expression, Lu Qing felt that Yan Zhike was so beautiful that he couldn't take his eyes off her. He used his sharp senses to confirm that there was no one around, so he put his arm up to block the most likely line of sight. He leaned over, lowered his head, and gave her a quick peck on her pink and smooth cheek. However, they are very likely to choose a safer and more conservative strategy. Yan Zhike revealed a thoughtful expression. Suddenly, she saw a shadow in front of her, and then she felt a sudden warmth on her face. She was stunned for a few seconds, and then she lowered her voice in shock and shyness. "What are you doing?" "This is the school bus." Lu Qing didn't take any further action. He sat up straight again, looked into her eyes, and laughed in a low voice. Coach Yan was so beautiful just now. Yan Zhike suddenly understood and blushed. She snorted and held back the smile on her face. She turned her head to look out of the window and said, "Pervert." Her side profile was as beautiful as a peach. Lu Qing was complacent and laughed. He was happy to be called a pervert. After a few minutes, the heat on her face faded a lot. Yan Zhike looked around guiltily, only to see that everyone was drowsy in the afternoon sun and the slightly swaying bus. Phew. She exhaled quietly and changed the topic with sweetness in her heart. "Cheng, how far have you practiced that simplified physical invulnerability move?" Cheng's face is getting thicker by the day. He can even say those mushy words without blushing or panting. Lu Qing first told him about his master's advice and then said, "That's all I can do for now. Severe warning isn't something that can be mastered just because you want to. I still need some heat to overcome the first obstacle." "The first obstacle? Is it the connection between the two visualization methods you mentioned before?" Yan Zhike was very curious about her boyfriend and martial arts. When the two were combined, the effect was much more than 1+1. Looking at his girlfriend's bright eyes, Lu Qing nodded helplessly. "Yeah. One is thundercloud, the other is ice. Not only do they have nothing in common, but they also repel each other." Yan Zhike's bright eyes looked up and muttered, "The core of my grandfather's yin-yang twist is the transformation of the two contradictory things, yin and yang. In terms of materialistic dialectics, it is opposition and unity. Cheng, I think you should think in this direction." At this point, she smiled and took Lu Cheng's forearm, drawing circles on the back of his hand. "This symbol is very vivid." Lu Cheng stared at it and felt it with his heart. He whispered to himself, "Tai Chi, opposition and unity, the transformation of yin and yang." Thoughts flashed through his mind. Suddenly, he thought of a better reference. "Isn't the Jin Dan in my body the unity of ice and fire? Can I imitate it and not try to connect the two visualization methods, but directly mix them together to form a similar balance? In that case, will the final, severe warning be mutated?" The more Lu Qing thought about it, the more excited he became. He held Yan Zhike's hand and looked at her sincerely. "I think I have an idea. Coach Yan is indeed amazing." "Really?" Yan Zhike was pleasantly surprised, happy and proud. "Yes," Lu Qing said with a hint of urgency. "Let's try it tomorrow morning." Yan Zhike didn't reply. She pursed her lips and smiled. She felt a strong sense of participation and accomplishment. In a famous shopping mall in Songcheng, Yan Zhike took the box from the shop assistant and passed it to Lu Qing. "Try this pair." Lu Qing glanced at the price and whispered, "You don't have to buy such an expensive pair. It's easy to break anyway." The first pair of martial arts shoes Yan Zhike gave him had a special meaning, so he didn't wear them often. He only used them occasionally for training and would wipe them clean as soon as possible. He cherished them as if they were his own body. "It's not too expensive." Yan Zhike paused and changed the topic. She smiled and said, "I believe you get what you pay for. A good pair of martial arts shoes can help you exert force. Although it may only increase your strength by 1% or less, it's better than nothing. Besides, the martial arts shoes of other brands are not that much cheaper. As long as a martial artist didn't practice Golden Bell cover, he was still immortal before he reached the physical invulnerability state. During a fierce fight, if he stepped on something sharp with his bare feet, he might hurt himself. The martial arts shoes were a layer of protection. If it wasn't necessary, no one would deliberately break them. Not that much cheaper. Lu Qing ridiculed him. That's hundreds of yuan. It was enough to cover a month's worth of food expenses. Although he had gone through tough times in the last 3 years of primary school and middle school, he had the care of his grandparents and cousins. In addition to his own personality, he loved money, but he did not develop the habit of being stingy. Now that he had just earned a large amount of extra income with his own ability, he was full of confidence. The young man was full of spirit, and it could even be said that he was a little extravagant in spending money. Of course, he was willing to spend money for Yenjika. He was a little frugal for himself. At this moment, he remembered the rule that, whatever Coach Yen says is right. He didn't refute and tried one pair after another. Well, let's go to Feiyue and have a look. Yenjika glanced at the shoes he tried and made a decision happily. She was happier to take Qing shopping than to buy clothes by herself. Still looking. Lu Cheng was at a loss as to what he had been doing for so long. Yenjika answered matter-of-factly, yeah, let's shop around. Maybe there are some activities and discounts in other stores. You don't care about this little discount, do you? As a good student of Coach Yen, Lu Cheng asked in confusion. Yenjika glanced at him and smiled. This is different from buying cheap martial arts shoes. Anyway, we will buy good martial arts shoes. If there is a discount, we will make a profit. Although it's not much, I like the feeling of making a profit. What kind of logic is this? Lu Cheng was stunned. Yenjika raised her head proudly. A woman's logic, okay. Lu Cheng was speechless. He followed Yenjika to one store after another. Finally, they went back to the first store and picked the first and third pair of martial arts shoes they tried. I tried for so long. What is it for? Lu Cheng wiped his non-existent cold sweat. When they were at the cashier, Yenjika took out her card. Let me do it. Lu Cheng stopped her. Yenjika pretended to be proud. I'm going to get the bonus. I want to buy something for my boyfriend, not if you are my boyfriend. Okay, okay. At this point, what else could Lu Cheng do? He could only nod his head with sweetness in his heart. Yenjika paid the money and pointed to the upper floor. Let's look at the clothes. I feel that you only have a few summer clothes. Well, you are very suitable for wearing slim clothes now. Okay. Lu Cheng carried the 2 bags and followed his girlfriend. He used to read on the internet that men often complained about shopping with their girlfriends or wives. The most common type was that the girl was shopping while the man was resting, but he was so tired that he was about to be paralyzed. However, now he wanted to say that the most tiring thing was not this. It was your girlfriend who kept asking you to try this and that. Although it was very happy and sweet, it was physically and mentally exhausting. Couldn't you choose quickly and buy quickly? Only a freak with abnormal stamina like me can enjoy it, right? Lu Cheng thought proudly. When he had a few more bags in his hands, Yenjika finally walked to the first floor of the mall. Lu Cheng looked at several famous jewelry stores nearby and began to think about how to lure Yenjika there. When he was thinking about what to say, Yenjika said excitedly with a pink face, Cheng, let's look at the jewelry, huh, so simple. Lu Cheng was stunned and nodded quickly. Okay. Later, he would encourage Yenjika to try a set of rings and remember her favorite type and the size of her finger. Then he would pretend that he was not satisfied with the type and take her away. Then he would use the bathroom as an excuse and come back to buy it. Then he would give her a surprise during dinner. Hee hee. Lu Cheng went over his plan one last time and felt that it was perfect. He even thought about what to say when he gave her the ring. Chapter 213. Yan Zhike looked straight ahead, not daring to turn her head to look at Lu Cheng. She randomly picked a jewelry store and rushed in, pretending to admire the jewelry, but her heart was beating fast. I can't let him find out my purpose. That's so embarrassing. Luckily I'm smart enough not to let him hold my hand before I suggested it. Otherwise, I'd be exposed. Wait, how should I hint to him? Lu Cheng followed Yan Zhike's gaze and looked at the rings in the glass counter. His heart was also beating fast, but it was because he was scared. All the diamond rings here cost more than 100,000, 70,000, 80,000, 50,000 or 60,000. The cheapest one cost more than 10,000. Compared with them, my private savings are so shabby. Lu Cheng's hidden pride of earning more than 30,000 in half a year disappeared. He felt a little inferior, but more of his desire and drive. While he was still young, he still had the ability to work hard. He must succeed. And in the field of martial arts, according to his master, Dan's stage was the beginning of the martial arts world. Yan Zhike didn't know what she was looking at. It took her dozens of seconds to come to her senses. She glanced at the jewelry inside, walked a few steps calmly, and switched to the platinum ring counter. She started to choose carefully. Seeing the prices here, Lu Cheng felt like he was back in the world again. Following the girl's gaze, he pointed at a simple classic ring and asked, "Do you want to try it?" Huh? So proactive. Yan Zhike was stunned and pretended to be normal. Okay. She and Lu Cheng both had good temperament. The shop assistant put on the gloves and asked with a smile, "Miss, what's your ring size?" "I haven't bought one before. Please measure it for me." Yan Zhike answered frankly and didn't feel embarrassed that she hadn't bought one before. Which kid would buy a ring for no reason? Okay. The shop assistant turned around to look for the utensils. For Lu Cheng, this was the highlight. His eyes were shining and his ears moved slightly. Yan Zhike looked at him and felt that Cheng was a little strange. The middle finger is size 11. This ring is just right. The shop assistant looked at the data on the girl's left hand and said, "What about the ring finger?" Lu Cheng couldn't help but interrupt. Yan Zhike's heart skipped a beat as she vaguely sensed her boyfriend's eagerness. She thought for a moment and connected the dots between the broadcasting bonus, the sudden shopping invitation, and the active suggestion of trying on the clothes. She came to an obvious conclusion. Does Orange want to give me a ring? The corners of her mouth curled up little by little. She couldn't hide her smile no matter how hard she tried. Her ink-black eyes flickered with a bright light. The phoenix does not have a pair of wings, but our hearts are as one. This poem appeared in her mind, and her heart felt warm and sweet. Ring finger 9. The shop assistant finished the measurement and took out the ring Lu Cheng had mentioned before. She put it on Yan Zhike's middle finger and complimented her with a smile. "It fits you perfectly. It's beautiful. Let's take a look at the others." Yan Zhike took the initiative to speak before Lu Cheng could think of an excuse. She took off the ring and deliberately looked at her phone. Holding back her laughter, she said seriously, "Cheng, I have something to ask you." "What is it?" Lu Cheng allowed himself to be pulled out of the jewelry store by the girl and stopped at a corner. He was confused. Yan Zhike bit her pearly white teeth and said with a faint smile, "Do you want to give me a ring?" "Ah." Lu Cheng was stunned by the slap. Was I so obvious? Where's the promised surprise? The girl's pretty face became serious. "Don't lie to me." Lu Cheng blushed and had to confess, "Yes, I was thinking about giving you a ring since I gave you the prize money for the preliminaries. We have been officially dating for almost 100 days. When a child reaches 100 years old, they will celebrate and hope to live a long life. Our relationship is like that of a newborn child. We also need a good sign on the 100th day. We will live a long life, grow old together, and grow old together. These were the words he had prepared to say when he gave her the ring. He had expected that once the surprise was created, the atmosphere would become suitable enough, and it would be quite touching and sincere. But now that he had not done anything, he suddenly had to say it. It was really awkward no matter how he said it. His feeling was right. When the atmosphere was not right, the more Yenjika listened, the more she wanted to laugh. What is this? What a strange metaphor Cheng is using. Her sense of humor was touched. She covered her mouth with one hand and pressed her belly with the other, shaking with laughter. I will remember Cheng's confession. I will remember it for the rest of my life and be happy for the rest of my life. What do you mean by the beginning of a relationship is like that of a newborn child? Do you want to hold a 100th birthday banquet? Lu Qing took a breath and helplessly looked at his girlfriend, who was less amused. It was a success to make her laugh. Yenjika laughed for a while and gradually calmed down. She recalled Lu Cheng's words just now. She didn't know why, but she felt a little touched. Her cheeks became pinker and redder because of her laughter. She looked at Lu Cheng with bright eyes and snorted, "Since you want to give it to me so sincerely, I will reluctantly accept it. But rings are in pairs. If I have one, you don't. What kind of boyfriend and girlfriend are we?" As she spoke, she couldn't help but look to the side, not daring to look at Lu Cheng. Lu Cheng instantly forgot his embarrassment and nodded hard. "Okay. Then I will buy a pair of rings, one for you and one for me." "No, your ring is meaningful only if I give it to you." Yenjika guided him step by step and finally laid the prelude to her words. "Well, it's easy to lift something heavy, without a hint of smoke or fire." "That's true." Lu Cheng happily held her hand. "Then let's go and choose a pair of rings." Speaking of this, he suddenly felt that the development of this matter seemed to have been arranged. Who proposed to look at jewelry just now? It seems that I may have been tricked again. He held back his inexplicable smile and warmth and asked tentatively, Did you plan to take me to choose a ring from the beginning?" "What did you say?" "I don't understand." Yenjika's pretty face suddenly turned red. She turned her head to the side and answered firmly. She wanted to say no directly, but she didn't want to lie to Lu Cheng. Why did Cheng suddenly become so smart? Lu Cheng stopped while he was ahead. Like a weasel who had stolen a chick, he pulled Yenjika back to the jewelry store with a smile. This time, they were looking at platinum rings. After some selection, Coach Yen made the final decision. They bought a pair of simple and classic rings. There were only 2 spiral lines on the rings that converged at the front, setting off the polished water droplets. Because of the different sizes, there were no fancy inlaid diamonds. The women's ring was cheaper, more than 1,100 yuan. After paying with his credit card, Lu Qing carried the bags and looked around, trying to find a quiet place where he could put the ring on Yenjika's finger. As for which finger to put the ring on, he had already checked. The middle finger of the left hand. Yenjika looked at him with a smile and pretended to be careless. "There is a cafe on the 4th floor, really?" Lu Qing asked subconsciously. Then he stopped doubting and sighed with emotion. "You are so observant, I should have been enjoying the feeling of shopping with her, pain and happiness." Yenjika proudly raised her head. "Of course, I am a famous detective." 4th floor, Yuanmu Coffee. They found a booth in a corner where there was no one around. This time, Lu Qing deliberately sat opposite Yenjika, opened the box of the women's ring, and solemnly picked up her left hand. Yenjika lightly bit her lips, blushed, with dimples on her cheeks. Her eyes were a little evasive, but she still firmly watched Lu Cheng's movements, watching him carefully put the ring on her middle finger. In an instant, she felt that the atmosphere around them had become very solemn and serious, not like a couple playing house. While slowly pushing the ring down, Lu Cheng half-jokingly said from the bottom of his heart, "I'm sorry. Put on this ring, and you are my wife." When he said the word, wife, he had a heavy feeling that this would be the most sacred responsibility in his life. This ring is very ordinary, but I will give better and better ones in the future. Engagement rings, wedding rings, anniversary rings. Yenjika burst into laughter. She wanted to scold him for his wishful thinking, but when she opened her mouth, she didn't say anything. She looked at Lu Cheng drunkenly as he completed the ceremony. Then, she opened the box of the men's ring, picked up the ring, and took Lu Cheng's left hand over. Her body slightly trembled as she helped him put it on his middle finger. Her eyes looked at the two shining rings, and she said shyly and brightly, "Put on this ring, and you are my Cheng." Her voice was weak at first, but gradually it became smooth, and she got used to it. She became bold and firm. Hearing this, Lu Cheng's heart surged with excitement and satisfaction. He wanted to hold his beloved girl in his arms and share his passion and feelings with her. But the cafe was not private enough, and there were many customers coming in and out. He could only control his mood and sit beside Yenjika, letting her lean on his chest, and stroking her smooth black hair. Yenjika quietly leaned on Lu Cheng, listening to his warm heartbeat, feeling his overflowing love, and enjoying his silent gentleness. After a long time, she suddenly burst into laughter and said to herself, "I thought of a word." "What?" Lu Cheng asked with a smile. His voice was very soft because he didn't want to break the peaceful joy. Yenjika reached out to hold his arm and said with a smile, "Guess." Lu Cheng racked his brain and thought about his own feelings. He said with uncertainty, "Privately pledged to be married?" "Yes." Yenjika confirmed with a blush on her cheeks. They had a tacit understanding. Looking at her shy face, Lu Cheng couldn't help but want to tease her. "Cool, we have exchanged rings. Shouldn't we change the way we address each other? What should I call you?" Yenjika asked innocently and blankly. "Husband, wife or something?" Lu Cheng said with a cheeky smile. Yenjika suddenly felt shy and annoyed. She reached out to punch his chest. "You wish." After enjoying the endless time spent together in the cafe and happily eating a local dish recommended by Kai Zongming, the two of them held hands and walked through the old campus. They took the last school bus and returned to the new campus that had yet to quiet down in the night. When she got off the bus, Yenjika suddenly took a deep breath. "What's wrong?" Lu Cheng was sensitive and focused on the girl. How could he not notice the abnormality? Yenjika pursed her lips and turned her head. She answered shyly, "My legs are a little sore. After practicing martial arts for the whole morning and shopping for the whole afternoon, it was inevitable that her legs and feet were sore." Lu Cheng immediately said, "Do you want to find a place to sit and let me give you a massage?" She wasn't tired at all. Even her tired spirit was completely uplifted by the exchange of rings. Yenjika rolled her eyes at him and said with anger and amusement, "I'm wearing a dress, idiot." No matter what position she used to massage the legs and feet, it would be very embarrassing. Lu Cheng patted his head and secretly sighed that he was not meticulous enough in some details. So he suggested, "Then let's find a chair to sit and rest for a while." Because it was the last school bus, the surroundings became quite quiet as the bus left. Although there were still people coming and going, there weren't many of them. Yenjika nodded and followed Lu Cheng to a bench. She took out a tissue from her bag and asked Lu Cheng to wipe the back of the bench. After sitting down, she bent down and rubbed her calves. Her eyes twinkled and she smiled with curiosity and shyness. "Cheng, I thought you would suggest a walk by the lake." When they exchanged rings in the afternoon, Cheng was so excited and happy. She always felt that he was suppressing his passion and wanted to release it. Who knew he would hold it back? Since they communicated on the 1st of May, Lu Cheng didn't kiss her passionately every time they walked. However, the environment by the lake was so good, the atmosphere was so suitable, and they were in the stage of love. So for Yenjika, on this special day when they exchanged rings, a walk by the lake was like a request for intimacy. Lu Cheng put his arm around the girl's shoulder and pulled her closer to him. He tilted his head and stared into her eyes. He smiled and said seriously, if I were to suggest going to the lake now, I would feel that the exchange of rings was just to trick you into being intimate with me. But to me, it's actually a very solemn and sacred thing. It's my promise and expectation. It's not an excuse to trick you into being intimate with me. I want to prove to you that you are the most important person in my heart. I only want to be intimate with you because I like you. That's why I'm so excited and thirsty, and not the other way around. I want to prove to you that I'm a man of my words and can control myself. This was an impulse blurting out, but also a burst of accumulated thoughts in his heart. Yenjika's beautiful black eyes were covered with a thin layer of mist. She bit her pink lips with her white teeth and scolded him with joy and tenderness, "You're getting more and more mushy. You can even say such romantic words that are close to the dialogue of a TV series." But why do I like it a little, more than a little? Lu Qing could hear the girl's true tone. He smiled and said, "Anyway, I don't want our special day to be mixed with desire." Of course, there was passion and impulse in the afternoon, but he restrained himself. Speaking of this, he added with a smile, "In fact, I also like our relationship like this." "I like it too." Yenjika leaned her face on Lu Cheng's shoulder with a peaceful and beautiful smile. After a short snuggle that didn't need to be spoken, she kept whispering, half teasing, half confused. What if I invite you to take a walk by the lake tomorrow night?" Lu Cheng's heartbeat suddenly sped up. He also heard the girl's rapid heartbeat from their clasped palms. His mouth was dry and full of expectation. "Then I'll definitely be happy." Yenjika's lips parted and she took 2 quick breaths to calm down the heat on her cheeks. She smiled and said, "I'm just saying if. I just wanted to tease Cheng. But why do I feel like I'm possessed by a ghost after saying it?" But Cheng's reaction is really funny. Lu Cheng shook his head with a smile. He rubbed the girl's hair and deliberately said fiercely, "Be careful or I'll be beastly." "I believe you." Yenjika sat up straight and smiled sweetly. Her eyes were pure and innocent. After that, she jumped up with her hands behind her back and said, "Let's go back to the dormitory. Today is really a happy day." In the shadow of the 3rd dormitory, Lu Qing held the girl's hands and was reluctant to part with her. "See you tomorrow." Yenjika resisted the urge to stick to him and said cheerfully. Lu Qing looked at the ring on her left hand and then at his own ring. Seeing that they were a pair, he suddenly had an impulse and pulled the girl back and hugged her tightly. "This is my wife, what's wrong?" Yenjika felt Lu Cheng's excitement. She blinked and asked in confusion. Lu Qing said half jokingly and half sincerely, "I just saw the pair of rings on our hands and suddenly wanted to call you my wife." When he said this, he suddenly felt a little shy. "But I don't think I'm qualified enough to accept this title. I don't have enough ability to make your life better," so I held back. "You're so mushy." Yenjika hit him lightly. After dozens of seconds of silence, she changed her mind and held back her laughter. She left Lu Cheng's arms and said like a water lotus, how about I call you that?" "Really?" Lu Cheng was pleasantly surprised. "My words just now moved Kus so much. So much so that she could muster up the courage to call me that." "Really?" Yenjika said with a serious expression. Okay. Lu Qing nodded hard and answered without pausing for fear that the girl would change her mind. Yenjika took 2 steps towards the door of the dormitory, then turned around and looked at Lu Qing shyly. She opened her pink lips and said in a low voice, "Wife." "Ha ha ha." After that, she left Lu Qing in a daze and ran into the dormitory with a series of cheerful laughter. Her long hair fluttered in the wind. She laughed so hard that tears almost came out. "Today is really a happy day. Wife. I've been tricked again." Lu Qing wanted to be angry, but he couldn't stop smiling. He went back to the dormitory with all the bags. He looked through the bills and found that Yenjika had bought 7 or 8,000 yuan worth of shoes, clothes, and pants for herself, not including the rings. She didn't buy a lot, but the price was relatively high. And Ku seemed to think that these clothes and pants were not good enough. Lu Cheng was not a fool. He could feel that Yan Zhika didn't care about her own money and wasn't sensitive about it. In other words, she didn't worry about money. Thinking about the aura of Empress Dowager and the martial arts of her grandfather, many things could be understood without saying. Putting down the bags, Lu Qing replied to Yan Zhika's message and sighed softly. If he wanted to marry this wife and not let her be wronged, he had to work harder. If it was in the past, he would definitely feel inferior. But now, after so many hardships, he felt that he had the confidence to fight for it. As long as they could get along well, everything else would not be a problem. If he couldn't be a rich second generation, then he would be a rich first generation. The next morning, by the Weishui Lake, Lu Cheng, who was brimming with fighting spirit, restrained his temper and carried out his daily training until he finished most of his homework. Then he began to think about how to use the Jindan to complete the opposition and unification of the two visualization methods. He concealed his spirit and qi, suppressed the distracting thoughts, and lowered his spirit little by little towards the Jindan in his lower abdomen. Before this, he had already thought about how ice and fire were opposed and unified. He was an excellent student who had gone through junior high and senior high school physics education. In the 2 semesters compulsory courses, there were also college physics and university physics, so he had long developed this kind of thinking pattern and was used to using it to analyze things in nature. Therefore, from a similar point of view, ice and fire were only different on the surface. In fact, they were different states of matter under different temperatures, different pressures, and different environments. Thinking about it to the limit, when it reached ultra-low temperature or ultra-high temperature, ice and fire could be replaced by condensed state and plasma state. The same matter with different microstructures, the same thing with different sides, unified and opposed. Lu Cheng had not studied the knowledge of these two aspects in depth, so he could barely grasp this point. Slowly immersing his spirit, he enlarged the scene inside the Jindan in his field of vision, bit by bit. The flames were like the sun, equivalent to stars, emitting light and heat in the extremely low temperature and dark universe, illuminating the eternal loneliness of life. Ice crystals surrounded them. They were unusually cold and merciless. They were like planets and moons. However, from the outside, they reflected light and shone resplendently like stars in the night sky. In other words, they were fixed stars. This isn't right. Lu Cheng felt that this was against his understanding and observation of astronomical phenomena. He boldly made a change and no longer regarded the ice crystals as stars or planets. Instead, he regarded them as a symbol of the cold and dark universe. They represented the vast starry sky, not specific stars. His perception changed, and what he saw shook. The starry sky and nebula of the Jindan suddenly enlarged to the extreme. In the dark and cold boundless void, dust and matter kept accumulating and pulling each other. Finally, it reached the limit of gravity, violently collapsing and changing, igniting flames and giving birth to stars. Lu Cheng's initial understanding of the unity of ice and fire was under the microscopic structure, but this was on an astronomical scale. Extremely small and extremely large were also opposites and unified. And this was different from the image of Longhu Immortal. As soon as the image appeared, Lu Cheng's spirit was quickly drained. He had to withdraw and stop the visualization. He always felt that Longhu Immortal had made a mistake when dealing with the starry sky image of the Jindan, treating the flames as the sun and the ice crystals as stars. His success in the end seemed to be a bit of a fluke. For a moment, he suddenly understood why Peng Liyun took the college entrance examination, why he went to college, and why he chose the physics department of Shanghai University. In ancient times, martial artists did not have tools, nor did they have practical theories. They could only rely on themselves to understand nature, accumulating knowledge bit by bit and passing it down from generation to generation. But in today's society, people had a more realistic understanding of matter and the universe. It was a waste not to use them for martial arts. Geyser stood aside with relaxed mind and body. He found that his disciple was not practicing severe warning, but was inexplicably in a daze, so he asked casually, "What are you doing?" Lu Cheng was too embarrassed to say his thoughts before because he was afraid of being laughed at by his master. Now that he was asked, he honestly said, "Master, I was thinking that since Longhu Immortal's ice and fire can be balanced and unified, why can't I mix the two visualization methods of Thunder Roar Zen and Frost Force together?" Geezer Shi was stunned at first, then he convulsed with laughter. "Not bad, not bad. You have more ideas than I did when I was young. Give it a try, you can't go wrong. Only by giving it a try could one know what was whimsical, what was right, what was not enough, and what was a real idea that could be implemented." Chapter 214. On Sunday morning, beside Weishui Lake, Lu Qing stood with his legs apart and his eyes closed. His body seemed to be moving up and down along with the water. The wind around him was very light, mixed with the coolness and dampness of the rainstorm in the middle of the night. Everything seemed so peaceful and quiet. At this moment, Lu Qing put his left foot inward, bounced his back, and punched out his right fist like a club. Bang! He punched the air, and the quiet wind suddenly exploded and whimpered, rippling out in circles. Compared to before, they were stained with a bone-piercing chill, condensing a sparkling light, covering the wet ground within a 1-meter radius with a thin layer of silver frost. The further away it was, the less traces there were. This dreamy scene that violated the season paused for 3 seconds before disappearing. Lu Qing opened his eyes and saw it, but he couldn't believe it. Was this the power of his mutated version of severe warning? Although he could only punch once without deep sleep, but even an 8th pin Dan stage fighter couldn't take a punch, right? After nearly a week of hard work, continuous improvement, and difficult copying, he finally completed the fusion of Thundercloud and Ice Seal, which could be considered as a new visualization method of falling sun, ice and thunder. And the changes of the corresponding muscles, fascia, and internal organs of his body had also been tempered into the beginner's door. In other words, his simplified version of severe warning of physical invulnerability was basically mastered, but the biggest problem was that he wasn't skilled enough and flexible enough. It's 2 beats slower than Frost Force, but as long as I can seize the opportunity to hit Zhou Zhenquan, things will be simple. Lu Qing thought happily. Although severe warning didn't need to connect 2 visualization methods and was simplified into a martial art with only 1 visualization diagram, it was still a low-level version of physical invulnerability. After all, he had just learned it and still needed some time to prepare. He could only use it through excellent improvisation and anticipated traps to create opportunities to use it. This would be something out of Zhou Zhengxuan's expectation, so he definitely wouldn't be prepared. As for the specific power of severe warning, Lu Qing couldn't accurately judge because he hadn't experienced it in actual combat. Thinking of the initial mastery of the unique skill, the competition in the afternoon, and the fierce battle with an 8th pin expert, he was excited and expectant. He took a breath and eagerly said to Geezer Shi beside him, "Master, I'm going for a run." After an hour of deep sleep in the afternoon, everything would be ready. All that was left was to begin. "Go ahead." Geezer Shi waved his hand impatiently. After Lu Qing had left in high spirits, he sighed with a smile and shook his head. So young, at around 2:00 in the afternoon, Yanjika packed up her things and changed into a white martial arts suit with black edges. She was a little nervous and excited at the same time. At this moment, Li Liantong turned off the computer and said in a clear and urgent voice, "Ku, wait for me. Let's go together." "You're going there so early?" Yanjika knew that her roommate was going to watch the competition and cheer for the martial arts club, but she didn't expect that she would leave so early. Li Liantong had specially changed into a short-sleeved t-shirt, jeans, and sneakers. She pointed at herself and said with a smile, "I feel that I have fallen in love with the atmosphere of the martial arts competition. Don't you think this outfit suits you?" The feeling of everyone working together for one thing, the atmosphere where they could vent to their heart's content without caring about the gazes of others, and the passion of shouting and singing for victory filled him with nostalgia and love. Over there, she could do something different from the usual Li Liantong. It's okay. In fact, wearing the same martial arts suit makes me feel more involved. Yan Jika answered the question seriously first, and then looked at her roommate from head to toe. She teased, "Dirty Tong, are you bewitched? I remember that you didn't like martial arts very much in the beginning. Isn't your love for filth and corruption? People change." Li Liantong said seriously, "I'm such a quiet and sunny girl, so I need a little masculine hobby to balance, neutralize it." Zhong Yanru had turned her head when they were talking. At this moment, she snorted and said, "Dirty Tong, you're becoming more and more suspicious." "What do you mean by suspicious?" "Look, I've already prepared a small trumpet and an inflatable hammer." Li Liantong pulled out her weapons. Yan Jika pursed her lips and smiled, posing like a famous detective. "You're even more suspicious." That's right. Dirty Tong, you weren't so enthusiastic about the martial arts competition before." Shi Xiangyang leaned over the bed and smiled ambiguously. "Did you fall in love with a guy who practices martial arts?" Li Liantong looked at her three roommates with an aggrieved expression. "Am I such a person in your eyes?" "Yes." Yan Jika, Zhong Yanru, and Shi Xiangyang answered in unison. "I've really fallen in love with martial arts competitions. Haven't I been watching your preliminaries all this time? I was moved by Lin Kei and your Chang's performance, and attracted by the atmosphere during the competition. Cool, believe me, I've almost become a die-hard fan of your martial arts club." Li Liantong said her thoughts in a joking tone. Yan Jika stopped teasing her and said with a faint smile, "Welcome." It felt good to have someone supporting her, especially a familiar roommate. At this moment, Li Liantong's eyes turned, and she forgot about her seriousness. She smiled and said, "Cool, you're in a favorable position and you've taken Ching away. We're all good roommates, so we won't fight among ourselves. So, does Lin Kei have a girlfriend?" "Wow! I knew you were up to no good." Zhong Yanru laughed out loud. Shi Xiangyang also rubbed her cheeks and said, "I was saying that the Dirty Tong just now was so unfamiliar. This is your real face. Favorable position. It always feels weird when it comes out of Dirty Tong's mouth. Fortunately, they don't know that Lin Kei is my brother." Yan Jika thought and smiled. "Dirty Tong, don't think about it. Lin Kei's character is not suitable for ordinary people." Speaking of this, she suddenly sighed. As a sister, who wouldn't want her brother to be happier and happier? But, Li Liantong didn't care. She raised the inflatable hammer and said, "Do I look like an ordinary person?" After joking around, she called out to Zhong Yanru and Shi Xiangyang seriously, "Ru, Cabbage, let's go together. Let's cheer for the martial arts club." In the female dormitory of the Academy of Arts, Wu Qian finished her makeup and asked her roommates, "Is anyone going to watch the competition? I still have something to do. I don't want to get out of bed, so I won't watch you guys show off your affection." Two of the girls immediately said that they wouldn't go. They were only interested in watching the martial arts club's competition at the beginning. Another quiet girl wearing large-framed glasses hurriedly packed her things and said, "Wu Qian, I want to go." "Yanxi, you want to go?" Wu Qian had expected the answer. She felt that the most likely person to not go today was her roommate, Fan Yanxi, who was a quiet artist. Fan Yanxi nodded seriously and said, "Yeah, I like watching the martial arts club's competition." Wu Qian looked at her in confusion and didn't ask more. She smiled slightly and said, "Then hurry up, I'll wait for you." "Okay." Fan Yanxi nodded heavily. She was going to cheer for the martial arts club today. Yan Shaoling was lying on the bed as usual. She quickly opened the live video website. At the same time, she was also looking at the information she collected and provided by the unparalleled Dragon King. Every time she flooded the forum, she would make fun of herself and say that it was okay if she didn't understand and that she just had to be a love-struck fool. But in fact, she was a very serious and hard-working girl. She had been cramming martial arts knowledge to catch up with her friends. She couldn't always make fun of herself to maintain her position as a moderator. She had to cheer for Lu Cheng and the Songqing University Martial Arts Club later. In the Songqing University Martial Arts Club, Xu Rui sat in the reporter's seat. She looked at the interview prompts on her phone notebook and sighed in distress. She felt a headache when she thought of interviewing Lin Ke again today. Her phone screen lit up and showed a few lines of words. Lin Ke, martial arts fanatic. If he wins, he can talk and direct the questions to the details of the competition. If he loses, then, Xu Rui's thoughts were wandering. Suddenly, she felt the noisy stands become quiet. Instinctively, she looked at the gate and saw Zhou Jinquan walking in first. He was wearing a black traditional Chinese costume with red patterns. His temperament was gentle and his manners were calm. The few spectators were stunned. Behind Zhou Jinquan, Hou Yu, Zhui Yanjun, Li Xingnan, and the others walked in one after another. On the 19th of May, 2:46 p.m., the Donglin battle squad arrived. The last match of the top 8 in Songqing Division. Chapter 215. Under everyone's gaze, the Donglin squad calmly crossed the field and walked to the locker room of the away team. When they passed by the reporters, Zhou Jinquan glanced at Xu Rui and nodded with a smile. "Hello, Reporter Xu." During the group matches, the Donglin battle team often visited Songqing. He had seen this reporter who left a deep impression on him a few times. Xu Rui remembered the rule of not interviewing fighters before the competition. She stood up and said, "Hello, good luck." After a short greeting, Zhou Jinquan didn't look sideways. He straightened his back and walked forward without swaying. When they were far away from the reporters, Hou Yu excitedly approached his senior brother and asked in a low voice, "Senior brother Zhou, why don't you talk to reporter Xu for a while?" As an 18-year-old teenager who couldn't stay still, he loved to gossip about things other than martial arts, games and girls. Xu Rui, whom he had met several times, and Yan Zhika, whom he had watched in the competition videos, were often mentioned in his discussions with his senior brothers and junior brothers. Now that he saw them in person, he couldn't help but tease them. Interviews before the competition will affect one's mood. Zhou Jinquan answered calmly. "That's true." Hou Yu nodded and then winked. "Senior brother Zhou, do you want to ask for her phone number or QQ or WeChat later?" Zhou Jinquan chuckled. "Not at all. Asking for a girl's contact information will ruin my image. Little monkey, can't you concentrate on the competition?" Li Xingnan, who had sharp ears, scolded Hou Yu at this time. Hou Yu quietly stuck out his tongue and answered with a cheeky smile, "Got it. I'm very focused during the competition." "It hasn't started yet, right?" In the reporters' seats, Xu Rui watched their backs disappear at the locker room door. She shook her head and sneered, "Show off, I've seen all kinds of men." When Lu Cheng, Yan Zhika, and the others arrived at the martial arts arena, there were not many spectators. But the students they met on the way recognized him as soon as they saw his clothes and temperament. Even if they didn't recognize him, they would know that he was Lu Cheng, the leading member of the martial arts club, after seeing Yan Zhika beside him. "Come on, our entire dormitory is here to cheer for you guys." A cheerful boy clenched his fist and waved. "Lu Cheng, you can do it." Although a girl was so shy that her voice was trembling, she still mustered up the courage to shout out. Lu Cheng didn't expect to receive such a warm reception. For a moment, he didn't know how to react. He could only smile, nod, and wave with a stiff expression. Yan Zhika curled her lips and held back her laughter. She pretended that she didn't know this guy and walked forward calmly. When they were almost at the door of the changing room, she laughed softly and said, "Does it feel good to be a star?" Lu Cheng rubbed his stiff cheek muscles and said with a wry smile, I finally understand a word, flattered. This was the support of the students. This was both motivation and pressure. Filled with emotions, he pushed open the door of the locker room and let Yan Zhika enter first, followed by him. Clang! The bustling atmosphere was isolated from the outside world. At 3:00 sharp, all the participants of the preliminaries had arrived. Geezer sure drank a mouthful of wine and wiped his mouth. He looked around and said with a smile, Little Yen, this time you'll be the one to say the words. Me again. Yan Zhika was both angry and amused. Who was the coach? Smack the table. Hearing their conversation, everyone, including Lu Cheng, couldn't help but laugh out loud. The tension that had been brewing before the match suddenly dissipated a lot. Even Lin Kei showed his emotions at that moment in a small arc that ordinary people couldn't detect. Yan Zhika rolled her eyes at her boyfriend and pursed her lips. Based on Wenqing School's previous behavior and the fact that they won the first round, we can believe that they will adopt a safe strategy. They won't ask for credit, but they won't make any mistakes. Humph, I'll say it. Anyway, I've often discussed this with Cheng before. As for the specific in-depth analysis of thinking, she didn't describe it, so as not to confuse everyone. That is to say, they will still let Zhou Zhenquan fight second instead of taking the risk of sending an 8th pin Dan stage fighter first or last. If Zhou Zhenquan is the first to enter the arena, it's very likely that the situation with Fearless Squad will repeat itself if he encounters Lin Kei and Lu Cheng in that order. He will be defeated by Lu Cheng, who has insane stamina. If he is the last to enter the arena, he will be worried that we will use Lu Cheng as the vanguard. The premise of all this was that they didn't know that Cheng could also be tired. And judging from the details of the last match and the feedback afterwards, no one except for herself had realized this. Isn't it the same as when they fight first? Sun Jian raised his hand and asked. Yan Zhika shook her head like a coach. More or less the same, but the details will be adjusted. I think they will put Hou Yu last. Why? Li Mao and Guo Qing asked in unison. Wenqing School knows that Hou Yu's supernatural ability can't be hidden from us, so they can't let him be a surprise attack. His fighting style are very suitable for last. Think about it. If Lu Cheng and Lin Kei were in the same order, as long as Zhou Zhenquan didn't have a big problem, Lin Kei, who was facing Hou Yu, would definitely consume a lot of energy and show a decrease in strength, even if it wouldn't be as tiring as the last round. Then he would be restrained by the opponent who is good at monkey form. Moreover, his supernatural ability is special. Even if he takes precautions and raises his vigilance, he will still be easily affected when his body functions decline. If we let Lin Kei fight first, no matter if his opponent is Zhuo Yanjun or Li Xingnan, he will consume a lot of energy and reduce the pressure on Zhou Zhenquan. At that time, under the full power of the Dan stage, even if he can't defeat Lu Cheng, there is a high chance that he will be injured. The Fly Fall Punch's waterfall is somewhat similar to Tremor Punch. Lu Cheng's physical strength is abnormal, but it doesn't mean he is invincible. Once he is affected, it will be very difficult for him to face Hou Yu, who is jumping around. Sun Jian understood Yan Zhika's meaning and thought it was very reasonable. But another question arose. Since Hou Yu is so suitable for the last match, why didn't the Donglin squad arrange him like this before? First, to use his supernatural ability as a surprise attack. Second, Hou Yu's fighting style is very taxing on his body. We only mentioned Lu Cheng and Lin Kei before, but we didn't mention you, Senior Sun Jian. Yan Zhika smiled slightly. When Hou Yu defeats them, he will consume a lot of energy. He may not be able to beat you, and may lose 2-3. So, they fought for victory in the last match, and this match is for stability. After saying that, she glanced around and remembered that she was shy. She blushed slightly and said, I'm done analyzing. The order of the martial arts club's appearance must be arranged by Coach Shi. Next to her, Lu Cheng took the opportunity to consider the pros and cons of his appearance first or later. If he appeared first, he would encounter Zhou Zhenquan in his best condition. With his experience and strength, he might not find a chance to use severe warning. It could only be said that without the consumption of Hou Yu's supernatural ability, he would definitely perform better than he did in the Donglin squad, and there was hope that he could force out his opponent's continuous outbursts. If he fought later, Zhou Zhenquan would be weakened in all aspects after the fierce battle with Lin Ke, and Meng Qi was quite confident that he would be able to create an opportunity to use severe warning. However, the problem was that severe warning was currently a great burden to him. After defeating Zhou Zhenquan, he still had to continue fighting Hou Yu. Therefore, unlike when he fought first, he didn't need to consider a way to retreat, didn't need to be overcautious, and didn't need to hold back. He could go all out to fight Zhou Zhenquan and find a good opportunity to use severe warning. Comparing the two, it was better for him to appear first. While his thoughts were running wild, Lu Qing didn't make the most beneficial choice for himself because he had considered another problem. This match had to be won by 3-1 to have a chance to make a comeback. In other words, the one who appeared later couldn't lose. If he couldn't afford to lose, he would have to bear the pressure of winning. If he lost, considering Lin Ke's self-esteem and desire to win, and the fact that he could say, sorry, in the last match, it would be a great blow to him and make him full of guilt. Normal people would be upset and feel pain for a while, let alone Lin Ke, who was a bit mentally ill. I can't put pressure on him and aggravate his problem. This was not because he sympathized with Lin Ke, but because he wanted to protect him. It was not only for the sake of Yan Zhika, but also because they were the two pillars of the martial arts club. After fighting side by side for so many matches, they had long developed a sense of camaraderie with each other. As one of the leading fighters, as a man, this was the time to use his shoulders. I'll bear the pressure. Lu Qing exhaled and said before Gizershur could say anything, Coach, I want to be the second to appear. Everyone's eyes immediately focused on his face. Some were puzzled, some were surprised, some were biting their lips, and some were shaking with ice. This was a rare volunteer. Lin Ke pursed his lips and stepped forward. He looked straight at Gizershur and said, Coach, I want to be the second to appear. Lu Qing had expected this. While complaining about his brother-in-law's strong self-esteem, he explained calmly, I've been practicing a killer move recently. It's suitable for Zhou Zhengquan's condition to decline. Gizershur laughed. Everyone is very enthusiastic. I know that Lu Qing has mastered a killer move. He'll be the second to appear. Lin Ke tilted his head, took a deep look at Lu Qing, and nodded his head ever so slightly. He didn't say anything else and retreated to the corner. The order is Lin Ke, Lu Qing, and Sun Jian. Let's make the final adjustments quickly. Gizershur said casually. Yan Zhika was so smart that she had already guessed her boyfriend's thoughts. She pulled him to another corner, showed her dimples, and said in a low voice, Thank you. Do we still need to say thank you between us? Lu Qing made a joke that could evoke memories. Yan Zhika rolled her eyes and said with a smile in her eyes, I'm saying it for my brother. Your brother doesn't need to say thank you, unless he doesn't treat me as his teammate. Lu Qing said seriously, but he felt it was too serious, so he laughed and said, unless he doesn't treat me as his brother-in-law. Yan Zhika looked at this guy who was getting more and more shameless. She wanted to pinch him, but when she thought of his upcoming match, she held back her restless hand and snorted. Hearing the girl's coquettish anger, Lu Qing felt happy. He closed his eyes and planned to rest. Looking at his action, Yan Zhika's eyes moved and her expression became gentle. She leaned close to his ear and said in a low voice, Cheng, you're so nice. This is the right way for a girlfriend to thank her boyfriend. Lu Qing immediately smiled, but he didn't open his eyes. He just held Yan Zhika's slender hand and drew strength from it to better adjust his state. This was both pressure and motivation. In the away team locker room, the leader of Wenqing School, Ni Mingfei, looked around at all the disciples and stopped Hou Yu, who was running around in the room. In this match, we need to be steady first. Yu Chuan is the second to fight, so he can attack or retreat. Ni Mingfei said concisely, they must be on guard against your supernatural ability. You're the last to fight, so you have to win. Yanjun, you're the vanguard. No matter if you meet Lin Ke or Lu Cheng, just remember one thing. Don't be afraid and play your normal level. Do you understand? Understood. Hou Yu and Zhuo Yanjun answered in unison, while Zhou Zhenquan took out his black martial arts suit from his junior brother's backpack and carried it to the bathroom. At 3:27, in the live broadcast room of Songqing TV station, Fang Juexiao suddenly felt refreshed and said to the guest beside him, "Ganle, they're coming out, both sides are coming out." In the background of the broadcast, the sound of small loudspeakers was heard all over the stadium. According to the list and order of appearance they had just received, the first match was clear, Lin Ke versus Zhuo Yanjun. Chapter 2:16. In the stands, Li Liantong was still a little reserved and restrained. However, when she saw Lu Cheng, Lin Ke, and the others walking out of the home team's locker room one after another and heard the sound of the loudspeakers around her, the passion hidden in the depths of her heart was ignited. She raised her hands high, waved them back and forth, and shouted rhythmically with the audience nearby, "Songqing University, Songqing University. Songqing University, go for it." Zhong Yanru and Shi Xiangyang saw their roommate's selfless performance and were stunned for a moment. They couldn't believe that this was the dirty Tong they knew. Whether she was quiet on the outside or dirty on the inside, she was very different from her current self. However, when the announcer started to read the names of the main force and substitutes of Songqing University Martial Arts Club, Li Liantong and the other audience members responded in an echo-like manner. They also felt that something was stirring in their hearts, and they were eager to vent something. They wanted to be part of this crazy but intoxicating atmosphere. Unconsciously, they also shouted. Because of their different personalities and habits, they were not as crazy as Li Liantong and still retained some reserve. But they also turned their voices into drops of water in the waves. Lin Ke, Lu Cheng, Wu Qian and Zhang Jingye followed Kai Zongming and the others and shouted. Fan Yanxi held the loudspeaker and blew to her heart's content. Under her quiet appearance was a red face and passionate eyes. In such a tsunami of shouts, the referee stepped into the arena. He looked at both sides and made the final confirmation. He took a breath and let his voice penetrate the noise without the help of the loudspeaker, resounding in every corner of the stadium. Songqing University Martial Arts Club vs Donglin Squad in the quarterfinals of Songqing Division. Round 1, Lin Ke vs Zhuo Yanjun. Lin Ke suddenly stood up. He didn't directly walk to the arena. Instead, he walked past Li Mao and Yan Zhika and came in front of Lu Cheng, stretching out his right hand. Lu Cheng was stunned at first, then he smiled and reached out his hand to Lin Ke for a high five. "Go for it." Lin Ke nodded slightly, turned around, and stepped into the arena. Zhuo Yanjun was already standing there, as straight as a tree. She closed her eyes and rejoiced that she was still in the world of martial arts and could still step into the arena. The enemy on the other side was not easy to deal with. Last time, when he was exhausted, he had given himself a fright. Now that they had met again, he believed that everyone was certain that he would win. It was just a matter of how much energy he had expended. But I don't think so. I've also trained step by step to become a strong professional 9th pin fighter. There's a gap between me and a Dan stage fighter, but it's not so big that I can't make up for it. Just because there's little hope doesn't mean there's none. This wasn't Zhuo Yanjun being blindly arrogant. Rather, she believed that when encountering a strong enemy, holding on to the idea of going all out was a better way to accomplish the predetermined goal than having the mentality of seeking stability and attrition. Even if he wanted to settle for the next best thing, there had to be room for retreat. If he didn't use winning as his motivation, how could he take a step back and seek to wear down his opponent? Just as Zhuo Yanjun was about to sort out her thoughts, the referee raised his right hand and solemnly said, 3 minutes. Zhuo Yanjun knew that Lin Ke was a taciturn person who wouldn't even fart after being hit with a stick. She didn't want to waste her breath, so she simply closed her eyes and considered her thoughts for the last time. In the live broadcast room of Songqing TV station, Fang Juexiao chuckled. With Lin Ke as the representative, Songqing University Martial Arts Club doesn't seem to have any martial artists who are good at talking. It's hard to interpret the interesting verbal battle in the broadcast. A large part of the reason why he was able to become the host of Songqing TV station's martial arts competition step by step was that he was multi-talented and could even read lips. Ganlu smiled and shook his head. Don't you see what kind of background they have? If they were good at cursing, they would have been dealt with by the school. They're college students, so their quality is definitely higher. Old Gan, you've been out of the normal society for too long. If you have time, you should go online more often. Nowadays, some college students are better at cursing than you. And I only said they're good at talking, not cursing. Debate is also one of them. Fang Juexiao tried to liven up the atmosphere while Lin Ke and Zhuo Yanjun were stunned. As for the analysis of the outcome of this match, they had already discussed it before. Their views were quite consistent. Both sides had a chance, and it all depended on how they performed on the spot. While Fang Juexiao and Ganlu were discussing verbal skills, Kai Zongming looked at Lin Ke on the stage and felt the enthusiasm around him. Once again, he yearned for it. If I were standing there, I would definitely be as handsome as him. I wouldn't waste these 3 minutes. On the stage, the referee looked at the electronic clock and silently counted a few times. Once again, he raised his right hand and shouted in a clear voice, "Begin." The sound of the announcement still echoed. Suddenly, a series of thunderous sounds came from Lin Ke's body. It was like the buzz of a motorcycle rushing out, or the exhaust of a car before it started. It made Zhuo Yanjun suddenly think of a sentence recorded in the secret book of Fly Fall Punch: "The wind is blowing before the storm. The wind is blowing before the storm." Zhuo Yanjun's body swayed and her right hand followed. At that moment, she stepped back, not to dissipate the force, but to borrow it. With a crack, she fiercely pounced forward. Straightening her back, she raised her left arm high. Splitting Huashan Mountain alone. She knew that Lin Ke's tremor punch was different from Lu Cheng's. It was faster and faster, so she couldn't give him the slightest gap. In the previous exchange, Lin Ke had borrowed a bit of force from the yin-yang twist. Following the rebound of his left arm, he had already turned his body. At that moment, his right hand went up and firmly blocked the chop. Bam! Zhuo Yanjun's palm blade had just chopped Lin Ke's arm when her arm muscles strangely swelled and pushed up her martial arts suit. She had completed the long-awaited double force. Using this force, her left palm was like a blade. She was going to cut down and use the yin force to severely injure the muscles, fascia, and blood vessels under Lin Ke's skin. This way, he would need at least a month to recover. Blackwater Sword Technique's killing move, yin-yang double wave. The chop was yang, and the cut was yin. The yang force injured the bones, and the yin force attacked the flesh. At this critical moment, Lin Ke's face suddenly flushed red. His temples suddenly swelled, and the muscles of his right arm followed suit. Bursting with strength, he counteracted Zhuo Yanjun's yin force. The veins on the back of his hand bulged, as if they had doubled in size. After the swelling, Lin Ke first pulled his arm back and then bounced out, shaking off Zhuo Yanjun's palm blade. Then he put strength in his waist and back, pouncing forward and switching from defense to offense. Zhuo Yanjun didn't have time to adjust herself, so she could only continuously retreat. She saw Lin Ke coming closer and closer. His temples were swollen, and his left arm was about to deliver a fierce punch. She clenched her teeth and imitated Ho Yu. When Lin Ke swung his fist, she suddenly squatted down and put her left hand behind her back. At that moment, Lin Ke's body trembled. His left fist suddenly swung back, and using his back as a fulcrum, he bounced out with his right leg. Bam! His right foot was taut, and his kick split the air. Zhuo Yanjun hurriedly raised her left hand to her side, blocking Lin Kei's kick while her center of gravity was unstable. Bam! Her body swayed, but she didn't control it. She pushed the boat along the current to the right. Lin Kei's qi and blood all over his body abruptly shrank into a ball, and then suddenly erupted. Boom! His strength surging, Lin Kei crushed the black bricks under his feet and pounced forward. He rushed to Zhuo Yanjun's side before she could regain her balance. His temples swelled, and he quickly swung his arm, blasting out a meteor energy. Zhuo Yanjun didn't have time to dodge. She took a short breath and barely managed to raise her arms to block in front of her. Bam! She only felt like she had been hit by a bomb. Every bone in her body was shaking, and even her muscles and fascia were trembling. Coupled with her unstable center of gravity, she directly fell on her back. She had no time or ability to wriggle her abdominal muscles to make a ha-ha sound in order to counteract the shock. Lin Kei moved forward. His right hand didn't attack. Instead, he grabbed her arm and lifted her up. At that moment, the referee loudly announced, "First round, Lin Kei wins." You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.